I request everyone to please stand up for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Mr. Sameer Kochar, Chairman, SKOCH Group, Dr. Gulsharan Dhanjal, Vice Chairman, SKOCH Group, and Mr. Deepak Dalal, Managing Director, SKOCH Group. I would now like to invite Dr. Dhanjal to come and deliver the opening remarks.
Good morning and welcome to this beautiful sunny morning in Delhi. And I feel blessed to be sitting, to be part of you. So many beacons of hope who have come from all across the country. And a journey that you have traveled, not only from your place to Delhi, but in your career, in taking your projects from point A to point B and deliver. In fact, the story of SKOCH Awards dates back to 2003. I share an anecdote with you. It was Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, which is what we were told to go and assess. And that took us to the hinterland. Interestingly, in order to make a comparison, you have to go to a village which is connected and to a village which is not connected. We first went to a village which was not connected, and we saw during monsoon a cart stuck in a rivulet and being pushed by two men with a sick person on the cart going to hospital. That was a dilemma. We went to the connected village. There was a road and there was a sick buffalo being taken to hospital in a truck. So naysayers those days talked about that सड़क बनाने से क्या होता है, लोगों को employment देना चाहिए, लोगों को पैसा मिलना चाहिए, गरीबी उससे दूर होगी. But no one realizes the importance, the social impact of such an effort over a period of time. People had access to health, people had access to livelihood, people had access to schooling. And that was a big change. Similarly, NREGA, another success story. We went to a remote place in Rajasthan called Karoli and met up with a whole lot of beneficiaries. One woman, she said that ever since she started getting NREGA wages, her son has started going to school and they started eating 2 square meal, meaning to say they were living a life of starvation. Naysayers said that because the people who did not have access to food grain have started consuming it, it is leading to food insecurity. That was not true. It was changing their lives and their livelihoods. So as I said, they could afford better health care, they could afford education for the children, and they could afford a 2 square meal, which was healthy. So that means to say, generation will change, convert into a healthy generation over the next 20 years, and all of us see that change. Similarly, when you have been experiencing implementation of such projects, you also need somebody to take a look at that and make an assessment. How it worked. What actually worked, which you don't know. How it can be replicated, which others will take note of and learn from. And at the same time, how to scale. Because that knowledge you will gain by interacting with your peers, which is an integral process of SKOCH Award. Trust me, it's been a Herculean task. Not only reaching out to you, because for you we are one, but for us you are thousands. Putting all of you together in one room, starting the exercise of assessment, evaluation of SKOCH Award takes thousands and thousands of man-hours. Having to say, if in last 1 year, 800 plus projects were found to be well performing, you can well imagine we would have gone through at least 5 times of that. And if over each project you are spending, right from the time when you made an application to our internal team of editors going through it, then giving you feedback, setting up a jury evaluation for which you are invited, virtually currently, but otherwise physically that used to be the case. Pre-COVID, a panel of experts sits with you all day long and evaluates, questions you, and you make a case for yourself. It doesn't stop there. It goes on to the next level, which is you are invited to find support for yourself from experts, which is called popular vote. People whom you know, who believe in you, that you have actually changed something. And then again, you are given another opportunity to participate in exhibition. That's where your work gets documented. I'll digress here when I say documented. How many times in our lifetime, any project that you or I put together, we implemented, have we documented it? We have been so deeply engrossed in implementation that we find zero time availability to actually pick up pen and paper and say what is the process I followed, what problem I solved. You just keep moving on. It actually adds a lot to the success, but you haven't updated your own biodata in last 20 years. If you do so, it'll run into hundreds of pages. Why? Because you're focused on implementation. So documentation is something which is missing. That's what SKOCH does. A big differentiation that comes in is the documentation. So that is creating the institutional history, institutional memory, which is what we are very poor at. As a nation, we are not Harvard, we are not Cambridge. They do it on a regular basis. So in India, SKOCH happens to be the only organization which has a knowledge repository of what works at the project level. So that's what I meant when I said documentation. Project is owned by you right from day one when you are invited to apply for SKOCH Award till the time you have the final results with you. You are involved at each and every stage, which takes 4 to 5 months. And that actually is not the case with majority of awards in the country. Our jury, our panel of experts is drawn from the domain. People who have worked over 30, 35 years in the field and have a grassroots level exposure. Some of them are with us today. I would like Mr. Sharma, Dr. Bansal and Mr. Shashi Sharma kindly stand up and let's give them a big round of applause. You would have had, occasions to interact with him. In fact, before I proceed further, I will invite Mr. UK Sharma to kindly join me here and take 2 minutes and explain that the magnanimity of the entire process and how much time that you actually spend on a daily basis when you sit with each and every project.
आप सभी को अभिनंदन। और आपके प्रोजेक्ट्स में मेरे ख्याल से करीब करीब पिछले 3 साल में मैंने 3500 या 4000 के करीब प्रोजेक्ट्स अवेलुएट किए हैं और हर सेक्टर में किए हैं। सिंपल और हम्बल प्रोजेक्ट कैसा है, एक हिमाचल प्रदेश में एक आईएएस ऑफिसर थे, मे बी डिप्टी कलेक्टर और डीएम, उन्होंने क्या किया कोविड टाइम में कि जो वहाँ पे माइनर फॉरेस्ट प्रोड्यूस है उसकी गवर्नमेंट से परमिशन ली कि इस पत्ते को हम पत्तल बनाएंगे, दोना बनाएंगे, उससे लोकल एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेट किया, उससे फिर उनको खुद ही अरेंजमेंट किया कि हम बिकवाएंगे। तो उससे जो लोकल जो कोरोना की वजह से प्रॉब्लम थी कितनी सॉर्ट आउट हुई होगी, लैक्स में उनकी सेल बढ़ी है। ऑन द कॉन्ट्रेरी टू दैट, एयरपोर्ट्स, ये मिनिमम एग्जाम्पल है। दूसरा एग्जाम्पल है एयरपोर्ट्स का, गोवा एयरपोर्ट्स। जब हमारे पास एवोल्यूशन के लिए आया, पता लगा कि 22 ईयर्स का टाइम एंड कॉस्ट ओवररन है। वी वर सरप्राइज्ड, बट एटलीस्ट आई वाज नॉट, बिकॉज आई वाज इन द प्लानिंग कमीशन अर्लियर एंड नीति आयोग, तो आई वाज नोइंग दैट। हमारे दूसरे कुली कहने लगे कि ये तो 22 साल हो गए हैं। देन आई इंटरप्टेड कि 22 साल हुए हैं, लेकिन कंडीशंस प्रेसिडेंट जो लैंड एक्विजिशन है, कोर्ट में जो केसेस गए हैं, बहुत सारे उस पर लोगों ने स्टे लिए हैं, ये सारा प्रोसेस में ही 15 साल चले गए हैं। आई वॉज नॉट नोइंग दैट केस बिकॉज इट वॉज ए पीपीपी प्रोजेक्ट। तो बहुत सारी डाइवर्सिटी है आपके फील्ड में, एजुकेशन में, हेल्थ में, न्यूट्रिशन में, इतने सारे लाख्स एंड लाख्स प्रोजेक्ट हैं कि आई रियली स्टिल आई एम लर्निंग मैनी थिंग्स। मेरी वाइफ भी बिल्कुल मेरे सामने ही बैठ जाती है कई बार, वो खुद कहती है कि कितने अच्छे अच्छे प्रोजेक्ट हैं। परसों ही एक प्रोजेक्ट हमने एवेलुएट किया यूपी गवर्नमेंट का। 3 साल पहले डॉक्टर राजेंद्र पेंसिया हैं, 3 साल पहले उसे सेम सब्जेक्ट के ऊपर दिया था कि जो आवारा पशु गांव में घूमते रहते हैं उनको एक ये तरह से न्यूसेंस है, वो बहुत सारी फसल को डिस्ट्रॉय कर देते हैं, किसान भी परेशान हैं, गवर्नमेंट भी परेशान है। तो फिर हम लोगों ने उनको स्कोच की तरफ से सजेशन दिया कि आप इसको जो है ना गौशाला बनाने का प्लान था, तब आ गया था उनका आइडिया, लेकिन उसमें क्या करो कि आप जो गोबर है ना उसको इकट्ठा करके फिर ऑर्गेनिक करो। जो जिन किसानों के लिए प्रॉब्लम बनी हुई है वही किसान आज परचेज कर रहे हैं। 31 मार्च अभी नेक्स्ट वीक ही है, सारे पशु जितने भी आवारा पशु हैं वो सारे के सारे गौशाला में भेज दिए गए हैं, और या इधर उधर थोड़े बहुत होंगे तो वो सारे के सारे गौशालाओं में चले गए हैं। एक नई इंडस्ट्री बन गई है ऑर्गेनिक। तो ऐसे ऐसे लाख्स एंड लाख्स ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट हैं। रियली आई एम थ्रिल्ड एंड आई कॉन्ग्रेचुलेट टू ऑल ऑफ यू। एजुकेशन में इतने सारे एग्जाम्पल है, मतलब एजुकेशन तो ऐसी चीज़ है जो बहुत ही एक तरह से रेडिकल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन सभी के जीवन में करती है। हम लोग सब ज़्यादातर विलेज की बैकग्राउंड से हैं या जैसे भी हैं, मतलब पिछले ओवर द ईयर्स पिछले 30-40 साल में जो तरक्की की है बिकॉज ऑफ एजुकेशन ओनली, बिकॉज ऑफ हेल्थ, गुड हेल्थ ओनली। तो आई रियली compliment to all of you. Really, I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharma ji. Nearly 35 years that he spent in Planning Commission. He has been with SKOCH as our senior fellow in the foundation. And as he himself said, more than 3,500 projects in last 3-4 years that he has gone through personally. And similarly would be the case with almost everyone. एक इंटरेस्टिंग बात यहाँ पे मैं बताना चाहता हूँ। अगर 3,500 की बात करते हैं तो 3,500 प्रोजेक्ट्स को पढ़ने के लिए, उसको इवैल्यूएट करने के लिए, पूरा प्रोसेस ख़त्म करने के लिए कम से कम एक प्रोजेक्ट पे 20 घंटे का वक्त लगता है। अगर 3,500 प्रोजेक्ट सिर्फ इन्हीं के वक्त को अगर हम मल्टीप्लाई कर लें तो वो फिगर, और उसको अगर आप इंडस्ट्री फिगर जो कि ये KPMGs और ये सब हर घंटे का चार्ज करते हैं, जो कि 1-1.5 लाख से नीचे नहीं होता है, तो ये फिगर जो है कुछ 50-60 करोड़ तक चली जाएगी। तो इसका मतलब है कि इतना टाइम इन्वेस्टमेंट इसके ऊपर, जो कि अगर आप उसको मोनेटाइज करें तो उसका इक्विवेलेंट आपके सामने दिखता है। बट द पॉइंट इज़ then who's funding it? No one is funding it. SKOCH has been doing year on year since 2003 on its own steam. Importantly, then how are we managing it? There was a famous saying that if you want to change India, you have to know India. And if you want to know India, you have to walk the streets, deeper into the villages, Gandhian way. So we went exactly the same way. And Gandhi had mass following who believed in the cause and created an ecosystem. So we've been fortunate and blessed by the Almighty that people from all walks of life have come forward and do Shramdan. You met with one such gentleman right now. There are former regulators, former bureaucrats, former policymakers from Planning Commission, elsewhere, all around, even from the industry. They help us push the envelope further. And that's a sweet spot which we find ourselves. That helps us to walk the straight and narrow. आप अपने को ही एक बार देखें, किसी ने भी स्कॉच में या स्कॉच के इकोसिस्टम में किसी को फ़ोन करके नहीं बोला होगा कि हमने अवार्ड के लिए अप्लाई किया है, प्लीज़ दिलवा दीजिए, क्योंकि आपको मालूम है चलता ही नहीं है, इसलिए आप फ़ोन भी नहीं करते हैं. We come under no pulls, no pressures. And we actually are a benchmark of honesty there. So with this, I invite Dr. Nimal Bansal for his 2 minutes. He's again 35 years, former banker, former development thinker, development economist, and worked very, very deeply at the grassroots with one of the organizations only would talk about, which is FINO, which is what he set up, and today it's a large organization serving people at the grassroots. Nimalji.
Thank you and good morning to everybody. My association with SKOCH goes around 14-15 years now, and I'm really thankful to Sameer ji, Dr. Gurcharan, and of late Deepak and his entire team. And Dr. Gurshan Dhanjal has touched 2-3 points which I would like to take it forward from here. Although we are not Oxford or we are not Harvard or anything like that, but I can tell you the learning which we get from here is more than that. As Sharma ji has told that he has done in 3.5 years around 3,500 projects. You just see my association with you is 14 years. How many projects I would have done, and I'm getting wiser day by day with the help of you people that who have been sending your projects and your nominations. Now, let me tell you that it looks very simple when you get an award, but it's not so simple. The work behind it goes very, very intense. The day from that identification of the right candidate goes till the time of screening, and then the nomination, then the jury evaluation, then the peer evaluation, and then asking for the awards or organizing everything. Just see that we are today at the 90th award, and it's really a great achievement in the past 17-18 years that organizing so many awards are not an easy task. So I am very humbly tell people, whatever work you people have done, we'll take it on the face value on the basis of what you are told. And we don't judge that. Only we want to understand that what would be the impact in case we just take it forward with the policy makers. अगर घर में हमारे एक बार अगर टैप खराब हो जाता है तो उसको एक प्लम्बर को बुलाने के लिए 2 दिन लग जाते हैं उसको फिक्स करने के लिए. Whereas you people have making the efforts and the project which are the importance to the impact on the government as a whole. So you deserve a big clap for that, I must say. So taking that forward, SKOCH is really doing a wonderful job in making it repository and, of course, taking it forward to the appropriate level where the best practices can be implemented. So I congratulate you all for your getting awards today, and a big congratulations to Mr. Sameer Kochar and his team, including Gurshan Dhanjal ji and Deepak Dalal, Kunal and everybody. You have been doing wonderful job, and now, of course, Rohan and Sayan are also there. So I wish that you keep it going, sir, and make it a century by the time the next government is formed. wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nirmal ji. You know, big change that we also find. I share a small anecdote here. Early on, we were invited to a district which had done some exemplary work. And when we said that now we would like to document it, they said, no. आपको हमने बता दिया है, बस इतना ही काफ़ी है, आप लिखेंगे नहीं इसके बारे में. हमने कहा क्यों नहीं लिखेंगे, आपने इतना अच्छा काम किया है, लोगों को बताना चाहिए. बोले यही तो नहीं बताना चाहते हैं क्योंकि वो चोरी हो जाएगा. जो हमने किया है वो इम्प्लीमेंट कर देंगे, तुम्हारा नाम खराब हो गया. There has been a 180-degree turn ever since. Today, everyone wants to talk about their success because now we have projects which are the champions, not the individuals as champions of the project. Meaning to say that more or less it's become process driven. And when you have a process in place, then you get all the credit. And at the same time, the project scales and becomes a national implementation, a big success. So people, projects, and institutions is what SKOCH Award stands for. Mr. Shashi Sharma ji, I would like to invite you now. As you can also see that he's all, please join me here on the stage. His years of experience that he brings to the table, that he has been associated with SKOCH Foundation as Senior Fellow for a number of years and helped us assess, again, an equally large amount of number of projects. He's a development banker, having served in his professional career at 10 different organizations.
Good morning, everyone. And it's great to have this audience. Today, the board says it's the 90th SKOCH Summit. Soon there'll be centurions. But that's only as far as summits are concerned. If you look at the total amount of work that is getting done there, it'll be many centuries already crossed by them. SKOCH are here to make a difference. Their passion is assisting and promoting development, making a difference at the ground level. Have the satisfaction for having made a difference to the dispossessed. They've enabled implementation agencies to gain speed. Projects that come through are truly exemplars because those are the best that have been selected by this organization, which specializes in choosing pearls and then letting them get implemented, assisting in implementation itself. These exemplars are evaluated at multiple levels. The juries evaluate these for 3 or 4 levels, from conceptualization to implementation. Impact in targeted areas, area of operation, the ground coverage, actively assisting improvement. They actively assist improvement in these projects. And the best practices are shared all around. They develop best practices. It's one of the core areas that SKOCH invest effort and time in. That is best practices. Our processes have been adopted by others. The result is that our processes have been adopted by others as action points for development. And they have succeeded. They have been evaluated at multiple levels, and they have been accepted and awarded for being an organization that has made a difference, visible difference, felt difference on day-to-day basis by governments, by the general population, and also they have assisted lots and lots of people who can get passionate about doing these projects and making sure that they succeed. congratulations, Scotch, for all the great work done. I'm sure the country needs more and more association, interaction with the organization, since development of the dispossessed is the effort, is the target everywhere, and none can lead the effort better than Scotch, given what they've been doing in the past, given the dedication with which the whole thing is going on. So all the very best going forward also. Let's hope that we can improve this further.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. So all that, the talk that we have done, all what we have understood about Scotch Awards, where does it lead us to? There has to be a distilled outcome of that, and that is the Scotch State of Governance report card, which we release, that ranks the state governments, the departments, districts and municipalities, which is what I would like now to invite Mr. Samir Kochar to talk about.
Can this door be kept closed, please? No, I'll wait for you. No problem. No. Prerit, after you keep there, do me a favor, you stand here, make sure no one comes in and no one goes out. Thank you very much. नमस्कार, मेरा नाम समीर कोचर है. मेरी एक बहुत बुरी आदत है कि मैं जो भी बोलता हूँ दिल से बोलता हूँ. जेटली जी ने भी मेरे को बोला था कि आई एम वन ऑफ द मोस्ट ब्लंट पीपल दैट ही नोज. वो मेरे कंपनी वाले खूब पावर पॉइंट वगैरह बना के मुझे दे देते हैं, बट जब मैं बोलने में आता हूँ तो फिर मैं बोलना कुछ और ही शुरू कर देता हूँ, तो उसके लिए मैं पहले से ही माफ़ी चाहूँगा. I want to talk to you in the context of what is, going on around us. And the first question that I, normally ask myself and then the rest of us is, what is India? What is Bharat? India and Bharat are basically all of us put together. It is not a Congress party, it is not a BJP party, it is not a TMC party, it is not upper caste, it is not lower caste, it is not the rich or the poor. It is a huge collective of all of us put together that makes India. And that India is not just our generation, that India is the generations that have gone by before us, which has shaped our culture, which has shaped our heritage, which has shaped our thinking. तो आज अगर हम कुछ भी बोलते हैं कि इंडिया में ये अच्छा हो रहा है या बुरा हो रहा है, तो वो चीज़ हमेशा याद रखिएगा कि ये बात हम अपने बारे में बोल रहे हैं, क्योंकि उसी सिस्टम का हम लोग भी एक हिस्सा हैं, हमारे पुरखे भी उसका एक हिस्सा हैं, जो भी हमारा देश है, इस सबका कलेक्टिविज्म है. कई चीज़ें हैं जो बहुत अच्छी हुई हैं. नमस्कार, वेलकम. आएंगे आप? नहीं, आप आगे बैठ जाइए. तो उसमें जो हमारी हिस्ट्री है, बहुत चीज़ें ऐसी हैं जो अच्छा हुआ, बहुत चीज़ें ऐसी हैं जो अच्छा नहीं हुआ. ब्रिटिश राज था तो इंडिया कभी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कर ही नहीं पाया, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग नेशन बन ही नहीं पाया. अब उसको इतने साल हो गए आज़ादी को, उसके बाद भी काफ़ी सिस्टमिक प्रॉब्लम्स हैं हमारे पास. तो जब करंट गवर्नमेंट आई, उन्होंने कहा कि ये मेक इन इंडिया हम कैसे करें. तो उन्होंने एक चीज़ को माना, एक्सेप्ट किया, हमने सबने माना कि इंडिया में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करने के लिए देयर इज़ अ हैंडीकैप. सो यू हैव टू गिव अ डिसेबिलिटी बेनिफिट टू द इंडियन इंडस्ट्री। और हमने शुरुआत की एक प्रोडक्शन लिंक्ड इंसेंटिव की। तो कोई भी आज मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करता है तो गवर्नमेंट ये मानती है कि हम मानते हैं कि हमारे यहाँ सिस्टमिक प्रॉब्लम है, सिस्टम ठीक से नहीं चलते हैं, हो सकता है करप्शन भी हो सकता है कि चीज़ें कम चलें। तो अब ये सारी प्रॉब्लम्स तो हम नहीं सॉल्व कर सकते हैं, पर ये 5-6% हम आपको अपफ्रंट दे रहे हैं कि आप ये प्रॉब्लम्स को झेलिए और सॉल्व कीजिए, इसकी ये कॉस्ट है। ये मायने हैं प्रोडक्शन लिंक्ड इंसेंटिव के। अब यही चीज़ जो है अगर हम प्राइवेट सेक्टर के लिए कर रहे हैं, इंडस्ट्री के लिए कर रहे हैं, तो शायद बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है कि अपनी ब्यूरोक्रेसी और सरकारी कर्मचारियों के लिए भी करें, क्योंकि उनके हैंडीकैप प्रेरित उनके हैंडीकैप ना तो किसी को नज़र आते हैं, ना उनको कॉम्पनसेट किया जा सकता है। जो हमारे नेशनल अवार्ड्स हैं वो भी बहुत कम है। कुछ मंत्रालयों ने अपने उसमें अवार्ड्स करने की कोशिश की, तो उसमें भी लगा कि शायद इसको पॉलिटिकल नज़रिए से ना देखा जाए, तो शायद सरकार का काम अवार्ड रिवॉर्ड करना नहीं है। तो ये काम जो है स्कॉच 20 साल से कर रही है। हम रिकग्नाइज कर रहे हैं कि आपने क्या अच्छा काम, क्योंकि तनख्वाह तो आपकी उतनी सी है, रिटायरमेंट एज भी आपकी उतनी सी है, सीवीसी भी आपके ऊपर बैठे हैं, सीआईसी भी ऊपर बैठे हैं। आप करें काम या आप ना करें काम, आपकी मर्जी है। ये आपकी सेंस ऑफ पेट्रियोटिज्म और सेंस ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, जिसको शायद देश को रिकग्नाइज करना चाहिए और ऑनर करना चाहिए। क्योंकि हम और किस चीज़ की शाबाशी दें आपको? जो आपने देश के लिए अच्छा किया है वही किया है, और उसमें तो कोई ना आपको सरकार इंसेंटिव दे सकती है, ना कुछ एक पॉइंट से बियॉन्ड रिकग्निशन दे सकती है, बिकॉज सरकार भी एक सिस्टम है। अगर बोल दिया कि एक आदमी ने बड़ा अच्छा किया है तो शायद 2 आदमियों को ना अच्छा लगे। तो इस चीज़ के लिए हमने ये कोशिश करी है पिछले 20 साल से कि हम आपके पास जाएं, देखें कि किन मुसीबतों से लड़ के आपने ये अच्छा काम किया है और उससे देश की किस तरह से बढ़ोतरी हुई है। तो ऐसे लोग हैं आपके यहाँ, नीता वर्मा जी बैठी हैं, इनसे पहले शेफाली दास जी थी, और भी लोग थे सरकार में जिनके साथ में 25-25, 30-30 साल से काम किया है। जब ये अपना करियर शुरुआत कर रहे थे और हम अपनी स्कॉच शुरुआत कर रहे थे, और वो कहाँ से बढ़ के आएंगे, देश की क्या चीज़ें बदली हैं, कैसे बदल गई, रूरल डेवलपमेंट कैसे बदल गया, डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ पोस्ट कैसे बदल गया, जुडिशरी कैसे बदल गई। तो किसी का तो काम है इसको लिख के रिकग्नाइज करे, आपने आप हो गया क्या? तो इतने सालों से जो इन लोगों ने काम किया है उसको हमने स्टडी किया, उसको हमने डॉक्यूमेंट किया, और एक हमने स्पेस दी है बातचीत करने की, एक डायलॉग की स्पेस की। इंडिया में बहुत ज़्यादा कमी है। आधी प्रॉब्लम्स तो सॉल्व उसी में हो जाएं कि अगर हम लोग एक दूसरे से बात करना शुरू कर दें। अगर एक स्टेट गवर्नमेंट दूसरी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से बात करना शुरू कर दे, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट केंद्र सरकार से बात करना शुरू कर दे, पंचायत स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से बात करना शुरू कर दे, और मिलजुल के अगर हम एक बात का समाधान निकाल लें, तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली इसकी एक हमारी प्रोविजन स्टेट और सेंटर की तो होती थी, इंडियन इंटर स्टेट काउंसिल काफ़ी टाइम से शायद काम नहीं कर रही है। उसके बाद थोड़ा बहुत काम प्लानिंग कमीशन ने किया, जहाँ स्टेट्स की आके आपस में बात होती थी। अब नीति आयोग कर रहा है, बट फिर भी वो स्पेस बहुत लिमिटेड है। तो एक ये हमारा प्राइवेट सेक्टर में एंडेवर है कि स्टेट से बात करें, स्टेट सेंटर से बात करें, पंचायतें बात करें, एनजीओ बात करें, लोग बात करें, इंडस्ट्री बात करें। तो सबको साथ लेके चल के एक वार्तालाप करने का प्लेटफॉर्म हमारा है, जहां एक दूसरे की हम प्रशंसा भी करते हैं और एक दूसरे की हम कमी भी बताते हैं। और जब कमी बताते हैं तो हम यह नहीं बोलते कि ये चीज़ खराब है, हम ये बोलते हैं कि ये चीज़ को आप कैसे ठीक कर सकते हैं। और ये चीज़ हमें सच बोलते हुए 25 साल हो गए। इसको आज अंग्रेजी पत्रकारिता में नाम दे दिया गया स्पीकिंग ट्रूथ टू द पावर। जैसे आप कोई बड़ा महान काम कर रहे हैं कि आप कोई पावरफुल आदमी, आप उसको सच बोल रहे हैं। अगर आप सच बोल रहे हैं तो आप सच बोल रहे हैं ना, एविडेंस बेस्ड बोलिए, सच बोलिए और देश के भले के लिए बोले, तो इस देश में तो कोई भी कुछ भी बोल सकता है। मुझे नहीं लगता उसके ऊपर किसी को बोलने की कुछ रुकावट है। और इसी 20 साल की प्रक्रिया को आगे ले जाते हुए वी हैव बीन डूइंग दिस स्कॉच स्टेट ऑफ गवर्नेंस विच इज असेसमेंट बेस्ड ऑन प्राइमरी रिसर्च एंड आउटकम्स। अब बहुत सारे इंडेक्सेस, नीति आयोग भी इवैल्यूएशन करता है, परफॉर्मेंस मॉनिटरिंग यूनिट भी इवैल्यूएशन करते हैं, कुछ और मीडिया की संस्थाएं हैं जो स्टेट ऑफ स्टेट्स करते हैं। बट वो लोग क्या मेजर करते हैं ना, ऑल ऑफ देम आर मेजरिंग मैक्रो आउटकम्स। आपका बजट कितना था, आपने कितना खर्च दिया, सड़क कितने किलोमीटर बन गई, स्कूल कितने खुल गए, वो जो मेजरमेंट है वो सारा किलोग्राम का मेजरमेंट है। और उस मेजरमेंट को जो लेके सेकेंडरी रिसर्च करके मीडिया ने बोला कि जी स्टेट ऑफ स्टेट्स ये है क्योंकि इनका हेल्थ इंडेक्स ये चेंज हुआ, मोर्टेलिटी इंडेक्स ये चेंज हुआ, सड़क इनकी इतनी बन गई। तो क्या हुआ कि वो जो सरकारी तंत्र से किलोग्राम शुरू हुए, जो स्टेट से शुरू हुए, सेंटर में कंसोलिडेट हुए, वही जाके मीडिया में रिफ्लेक्ट किया। बट एक आम आदमी की ज़िंदगी में क्या बदला, शायद वो चीज़ कोई कैप्चर नहीं करता है। एक माइक्रो लेवल पे क्या बदलाव आया है, पहली प्रॉब्लम ये है। दूसरी प्रॉब्लम ये है कि बेस इफेक्ट बहुत बड़ी चीज़ करता है। अगर मैं बोलूँ कि हिंदुस्तान की सबसे बड़ी कंपनी कौन है, उसका मुझे अवार्ड देना है, तो मेरे को तो बड़ा सिंपल काम है, मैं तो फिर उसकी बैलेंस शीट मंगा लूँगा कि भाई आपकी टर्नओवर सबकी और प्रॉफिट किसका सबसे ज़्यादा है। क्या ये तरीका है किसी चीज़ को इवैल्यूएट करने का? क्या आप एक नॉर्थ ईस्ट की स्टेट को महाराष्ट्र से आप कंपेयर कर सकते हो कि आप कितने किलोग्राम के हो? तो जिसकी हिस्ट्री है उसको तो आप अंडू नहीं कर सकते ना। आप सिर्फ ये कर सकते हो कि आपने इंक्रीमेंटल चेंज क्या किया, उस साल के अंदर आपने क्या बदला, या आपने नया प्रोजेक्ट क्या किया और क्या निकला। तो पूरे देश के अंदर सिर्फ एक ही स्टडी है विच इज स्कॉच स्टेट ऑफ गवर्नेंस, जो सिर्फ ये चीज़ मेजर करती है कि उस साल में आपने क्या बदला या उस साल में आपने नया क्या किया। उससे पता लगता है कि आपकी गवर्नेंस अच्छी है कि खराब है। हम जजमेंट ये नहीं दे रहे हैं कि आपसे 3 चीफ मिनिस्टर पहले खराब काम कर गए, हम ये बात कर रहे हैं कि आपने इस साल में क्या किया है। तो ये चीज़ हमने 2003 से कर रहे हैं। ये जो है टाइमलाइन बेस्ड स्टडी है, ऐसी कोई टाइमलाइन बेस्ड स्टडी और है ही नहीं है। इन्होंने बात की कि इन्होंने कितने हज़ारों प्रोजेक्ट इवैल्यूएट किए हैं, आपके सामने आके जूरी लोगों ने बताया। इतने हज़ारों प्रोजेक्ट अगर हम एक साल में देखते हैं, 4,000 5,000 हमारे पास नॉमिनेशन आते हैं, तो आउट ऑफ दैट ओनली 822 हैव बीन सेलेक्टेड फॉर अ डीप डाइव स्टडी इन द ईयर 2022, विच इज़ अ 55% इंक्रीज ओवर 2021। तो गवर्नेंस अच्छी हो रही है क्योंकि 55% इंक्रीज है अच्छे प्रोजेक्ट्स में अक्रॉस स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स। इसमें कौन सी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट में कौन सी पार्टी से है हमें कोई मतलब नहीं है। अक्रॉस ऑल स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स there is a 55% increase. So I think governance in India is improving. There were 33 sectors that we were studying earlier. This year we studied 38 sectors. और highest participation is from district governance, which is 22%. अब अगर मैं ये टाइमलाइन दिखा दूं कि आज से 10 साल पहले हम करते थे, डिस्ट्रिक्ट से प्रोजेक्ट ही नहीं आते थे। तो हम बात डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन की करते हैं, हम बात डेवलपमेंट की करते हैं। तो ऑल ऑफ दैट इज गोइंग टू हैपन एट द डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल, एंड आई कैन शो यू एम्पेरिकल एविडेंस दैट दैट इज इंडीड going down and reaching there. This is how district government's governance over the past 8 years has panned out. 708 performance have been documented as well performing across districts. 617 municipal governance, 526 e-governance, 303 police and safety, 227 health. And we have timeline data for 38 such sectors. इससे क्या पता लगता है? इससे ये भी पता लगता है कि देश का फोकस कहाँ है। अब सपोज आपने बोला कि हमारा फोकस सैनिटेशन पे, स्वच्छ भारत पे फोकस है, या हमारा वाटर पे है, या हमारा डिस्ट्रिक्ट पे है। बट फाइनली व्हाट डज इट ट्रांसलेट्स इनटू समथिंग न्यू, समथिंग चेंजिंग एट द ग्रास रूट लेवल. So is your policy translating into an outcome? This is the only study that is telling you, because are the states actually going and doing it? Are they actually implementing it? अब आपको विजनरी लीडरशिप पीएम साहब आए, मन की बात में उन्होंने कोई बहुत अच्छी बात करी, तो विजन जो थी वो स्टेट तक गई, स्टेट से डिस्ट्रिक्ट तक गई, पंचायत तक गई, उसका क्या आउटकम निकला? ये बूता है ही नहीं किसी का स्टडी करने के सिवाय हमारे, जो कि हम करते हैं. और ये फीडबैक जो है पॉलिसी के लिए भी बड़ा ज़रूरी है कि आपने ये बोला था वो हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा, तो शायद पॉलिसी में कुछ बदलाव लाने की ज़रूरत है, शायद मॉनिटरिंग ज़्यादा इंटेंस करने की ज़रूरत है. तो ये गवर्नेंस प्रायोरिटीज़ ऑफ स्टेट्स जो हम डेटा देते हैं, ये बड़ा क्रूशियल डेटा है जो आपको बताता है कि आपकी सेंटर की पॉलिसी कहाँ जा रही है, स्टेट की पॉलिसी कहाँ जा रही है, और काम एक्चुअली हो कहाँ रहा है. इस सबको जोड़ के, सारे सेक्टर्स को जोड़ के हम स्टेट्स की रैंकिंग करते हैं, And this is the report. We are releasing only very small part of it just now. So big round of applause for Gujarat for being the best performing state. West Bengal and Tamil Nadu have tied at number 2. They've huge change in Tamil Nadu. From number 17, they've reached number 2. West Bengal was number 2, stays at number 2. Rajasthan has taken a huge jump from 15 to 3. And the rest remain within the top 10. किसी की थोड़ी सी बढ़ोतरी है, किसी की थोड़ी सी कमी है. हर सेक्टर का उनका रिपोर्ट कार्ड हर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से शेयर किया जा सकता है. तो ये तो अब उनको चिंतन इंटरनली करना है कि इसको कैसे ठीक किया जाए, कौन सी चीज़ नीचे गिरी उसको कैसे आगे बढ़ाएं, कौन सी चीज़ आगे बढ़ी उसको और कैसे बढ़ाएं, और दूसरी सेक्टर्स में हम इसके बारे में क्या सीख पाएँ. एक हम सोच रहे हैं एक गुड गवर्नेंस इंडेक्स ऑफ इंडिया बनाए, क्योंकि हमारे पास हर स्टेट की रैंकिंग है, हर सेक्टर में रैंकिंग है. वो मार्क्स हैं. जैसे गुजरात के पिछले 2015 से आज तक उसके टोटल मार्क्स 60.2 हैं. जो पिछला लोकसभा पीरियड था 2014 से 19 का, उसमें उनके 114 मार्क्स थे. तो इसको हम क्या एक इंडेक्स मान सकते हैं, और उसके अंदर हम एक एग्रीकल्चर इंडेक्स बना दें, अर्बन डेवलपमेंट इंडेक्स बना दें, तो उससे अपने आप स्टेट्स को भी मॉनिटर करने की बहुत अच्छी सहूलियत हो जाएगी, और शायद सेंटर के लिए भी अच्छा फीडबैक रहेगा, क्योंकि सेंटर के अंदर के भी ये कोई ऐसा मंत्रालय नहीं है, कोई ऐसी संस्था नहीं है जो ये सब चीज़ें स्टडी कर रही है, और ऐसा कोई गुड गवर्नेंस इंडेक्स भी नहीं है. तो अब डिस्पैरिटी आप गवर्नेंस की देखिए कि गुजरात इज एट 60, मणिपुर इज एट 0.05. और ये हमारी ओपिनियन नहीं है, ये तो हमने हर स्टेट से पूछा. वी राइट टू द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, वी से आप बताइए आप क्या अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं. ये भी हो सकता है कि मणिपुर बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहा है, उन्होंने बताया नहीं हमको, तो वो एरर ऑफ मार्जिन रहेगा. तो आई ऑलवेज encourage people that if you're doing well, if you're doing good, do share it, because then the rest of the country can also see it. So this is, as I said, the only timeline study. This year is going to be very crucial as the run-up year to the Lok Sabha election 2024. Beginning 24 there will be election. So we are going to have a half-yearly report in July 23, and the annual report well ahead of the election in 24. By January end 24, we hope to give the annual ranking for next year, and let's see which state is governing the best, which state is delivering governance the best. This is our ethics policy. We are too small, but किसी से घूस नहीं लेते, किसी को घूस नहीं देते, इसका मतलब ये है. Thank you very much.
Well, Samir ji, thank you very much for putting things in perspective. And in the same vein, before we start the next panel, may I request Mr. Samir Kochhar to join me on stage, as we are going to be making an announcement for the Public Service Award for Dr. Neeta Verma, DGIT Election Commission of India. Neeta ji, can I invite you, please? With Citizen in focus, Neeta Verma set up the technology platform called MyGov to engage more than 14 million citizens. Under her leadership as Director General NIC, national data centers across various locations were established and also launched the first national cloud in 2014 to provide state-of-the-art on-demand and ICT infrastructure. The NIC served was also founded under her guidance. This in addition to having unleashed digital transformation initiatives including e-office, e-hospital and e-procurement, to name a few. Indian Judiciary, Election Commission of India, central ministries, and state governments have all immensely benefited from her technology prowess, leading the digital transformation journey. Leverage emerging technologies in governance. She set up one of its kind center of excellence to explore emerging technologies in governance, particularly during COVID. She managed the Arogya Setu app used by as many as 21.82 crore Indians. Congratulations to you.
Let me share with you, I know Rita ji from a time when I was thin and I had a full head of hair. इनके भी शायद बाल सारे काले थे, बच्चे छोटे छोटे थे, इनके हस्बैंड बहुत बड़े डॉक्टर हैं, दोनों काफ़ी व्यस्त रहते हैं. उसको लेके जो इन्होंने देश की सेवा करी है और जो इन्होंने अपने परिवार को पाला है और जो बड़ा, और इनका एक फुटप्रिंट, जितनी बड़ी संस्थाएं हैं इंडिया के, जितने इंस्टीट्यूशन हैं, जुडिशरी हो, इलेक्शन कमीशन हो, ई ऑफिस जिसके बगैर आज सरकार नहीं चलती है, हर जगह इनके पद चिन्ह हैं. और ये अभी रिसेंटली रिटायर हुए हैं एनआईसी, बट ये आई थिंक सेकंड इनिंग्स दैट दे हैव. So from the beginning to from the sunrise to almost the sunset, I hope, which is a long time away, of her career, we have been associated. In every role we have seen her going beyond the call of duty and bringing such a refreshing energy to this country called India. We are grateful to you on behalf of all Indians, Neeta ji.
Thank you, Samir ji. We have a long association. I still remember the day when you had visited NIC when we were doing data centers and all. Thank you, Guru Charan, and whole SKOCH team. You know, when I look back and I see, and sometimes, you know, people do ask me that being in IT, how have you been in the same organization for over 36, 37 years? And I sometimes think back and I see what really made me kind of stick to the same place for so many years, almost close to 3.5 decades. So I think first of all, in my journey, I should be really grateful to all my seniors, my mentor, Dr. Seshagiri, and all our DGs previously, who not only showed a trust in me, but also gave me opportunity to work on different aspects of IT, different aspects of ICT, which kind of kept the enthusiasm always on. You always had something new to do, something new to learn. So that was one thing I think I will be always grateful you and grateful to all of them, and I really formally pay my gratitude to all of them. And as you grow, you know, you have teams to work with you. You aspire, you want to do so many things, but you can't alone do anything, especially when you're trying to do a project which is of the scale of a state, a scale of a nation, and there your teams really, you know, play a way. In fact, they are the ones who are making these projects happen. You are only the front face of it. So all these projects which you have mentioned and many more, I was very fortunate to have such brilliant, such committed and sincere colleagues with me all through my journey who have really supported. Sometimes, I mean, I used to feel back and then I'm asking perhaps too much, and I could see that it's not only, it's impacting somewhere their personal lives also, but everybody really supported. I was very fortunate. In fact, that's the request. I had requested some of my colleagues to join me today so that I could formally thank them. Mr. D.C. Mishra, I can see he is there. Shefali Madam has been my senior and has been really guiding us from the day one. Savita is there, and many more colleagues whom I'm not able to see, but they have all been, Rachna was there, as you are saying, e-office. They are the pillars behind these products and these platforms, and each one of them is going beyond the call of their duty to actually perform all these roles. And lastly, I have people like you, friends like you to really thank, because whenever we have done in the initials here, even a small thing, the way you recognize it at the state level, at the national level, you know, that really encourages, and that is a kind of enthusiasm. And I think it goes big way, these kind of awards and all, because it motivates to do more and more. So thank you for all those things. And And thank you very much for recognizing me or having me here. Thanks again.
Our pleasure and our honor.
Thank you. So this is time for our first panel discussion on emerging governance imperatives. And I have the pleasure of inviting Dr. Ashish Kumar Goyal, Director General, NRIDA and Joint Secretary, Ministry of Rural Development. He's been leading the national flagship scheme PMGSY from before COVID and did not allow it to suffer despite pandemic challenges. He's now piloting smart solutions to be integrated with the scheme, and the scheme is going notches. He was earlier Divisional Commissioner of Prayagraj. Welcome. Mr. Abhishek Singh, MD and CEO of Digital India Corporation and President and CEO of National E-Governance Division. He also served as the CEO of MyGov. He was Secretary of the Agricultural Scientist Recruitment Board, Government of India from June 19 to September 19. And he's been furthering the Digital India vision of the Honorable Prime Minister, bringing in his expertise in administration, implementing development programs, policy, and use of technology in improving governance. Mr. Sonmani Bora, Joint Secretary from Department of Land Resources, Ministry of Rural Development. He earlier held charge of Secretary to the Governor of Chhattisgarh, with additional charge as the Secretary, Department of Labor and Parliamentary Affairs for the state of Chhattisgarh. At the Department of Land Resources, he has been leading the unique land parcel identification number project that links all the land parcels with Aadhaar. I invite Dr. Neeta Verma, Director General IT, Election Commission of India. We heard she was the DG of NIC, spanning a career over 3.5 decades, and spearheaded the digital transformation initiatives through development of digital platforms for the government. Dr. Navaljeet Kapoor, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, actually a doctor by profession, having served the chest and TB hospital in Ambala for 3 years before joining the Indian Revenue Service in 1992. E-governance at the Ministry of Tribal Affairs has been especially piloted by him, resulting in paradigm shift in monitoring from paper-based to data-based. He recently received the SKOCH Award for Project Empowerment of Tribals through digitalization of scholarship scheme on behalf of the ministry. And our last panelist, Mr. Bishnupada Sethi, Principal Secretary, Higher Education from Government of Odisha. He's made immense contributions to Odisha University Research and Innovation Incentivization Plan, Kalinga Sikhya Sathi Yojana, free of cost education, among several other projects. His contribution in mobilizing initiatives and incentives for the scholars undertaking research works in different and divergent areas is encouraging. On a lighter note, he is also a learned poet. So, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for our eminent panel, and I request all the panelists to kindly join me on stage. Welcome the distinguished panel, and good morning to all of you once again. In fact, when we discuss the emerging paradigms of governance, the biggest question that arises in front of us is that whatever laurels and the achievements that we have had, that is there to support our vision as well as the steps being taken moving forward. But now India at 75, and going at India at 100, which is the 2047, we have been thinking aloud. And the Amrit Kal, which is what our Honorable Prime Minister talked about, has given us an opportunity as well as posed serious challenges. Because so far, we have not been used to doing such a long-term planning, and the change is not going to come that easy. So the biggest question in front of us is that how is it that we plan for the short term, the mid term, as well as the long term, so that the objectives that we set for India at 100 become achievable? Meaning to say that the road further ahead is definitely very smooth because we have the backing of the policy. But yes, there are challenges moving forward. So I'm going to be starting right from my extreme left, Mr. Bora. I guess you also have to leave in between. So in fact, you are receiving an award elsewhere, and thank you so much for being with us, sparing these precious moments. So in fact, I want to start with you when it comes to land records. The problems that we've been facing is that, there is a legacy in land records. There is a lot of, errors in the existing paper records that existed. I'm sure Neetaji will agree with me that the computerization of land records that started, it was only converting paper into computer. But we have come a long way, wherein we are now trying to integrate those records. We are trying to see how they become interoperable. We are also trying to see how is it that the litigations go down. And more than $200 billion of locked value, which is there in the litigations in the land, can be unlocked so that, it contributes to both, which is ease of doing business as well as ease of living. Mr. Bora.
A very good morning. Thank you, Guru Charanji, for giving this opportunity to speak little on the emerging governance imperatives. So I'll keep it very short, distinguished panelists, my seniors, and all the award winners present here from different states and departments. And I cannot see Samirji, but I must take this opportunity to compliment Samirji, Gurcharanji, and entire team for recognizing the beautiful initiatives, beautiful ideas, innovations across the country. So I'll be very brief. So when we talk about India and governance, so what comes to our mind? And when we look at the global scenario, you will see that India itself is a world of worlds. Actually, India has, because of its size or because of its population, because of the pluralism and the federal structure and the historical legacy, we'll see that most of the governance-related tools or initiatives or the legacies, traditions, you look at from any perspective, and you'll see that India actually doesn't require anything to follow from the outside world. Within India itself, there are beautiful initiatives, innovations, and traditions. However, in today's India, today's modern India, in 21st century, we need to also look at what the global community is also doing. So let us just look at, if we talk about United Nations, so what are the imperatives or the emerging trends for United Nations? They say that it is participation, rule of law, transparency, equity and inclusiveness, effectiveness and efficiency, accountability to assess good governance. So these are the parameters for global standard as far as United Nations is concerned. When you look at sovereign credit rating as enumerated by World Bank, they also have 6 parameters or indicators. These indicators are voice and accountability, political stability and absence of violence, government effectiveness, regulatory quality, rule of law, control of corruption. And within these indicators, they have a lot of sub-theme layers as well. I mean, how they actually calculate these indicators and came out with an index and ranking. And in today at Government of India, we all know that WGI is also extremely important, and most of the ministries and departments, in collaboration with states and UTs, they have been working on this. Now the third part, as our moderator, Guru Charanji, has already pointed out rightly, that we have just completed 75th year of independence from British, of course, from colonialism. We have a legacy of thousands of years of Indian civilization. But when you talk about political independence from the colonial past, so we have already completed 75 years and we are going ahead. And as there is a clarion call for next 25 years, what is the vision of India at 75? So what I can jot down that these things actually emerge. These are the imperatives for a good governance system. It has to be whatever policy, whatever program, whatever innovations, whatever process re-engineering, whatever we do, it has to be aimed at ultimately citizen is the core or the central of your act. So that means that citizen-centric policy, innovations, and program is the key, which will actually ensure ease of doing business as well as ease of living for the citizens. So this imperative is the core of all other imperatives, I think. Then comes, because as we are a vibrant nation with a young population now, so there's a lot of galvanization into new ideas. So that means we also need to look at innovation. That is another imperative at the Amrit Kal, that is the innovation, that how many innovations, how much innovation, how qualitatively we can innovate the things which actually concern us, our country, our development. Then comes the another imperative, that is the adaptation to new technology or techniques. So India is again vibrant with in the IT industry, and I'll just mention that the iconic path-breaking thing have just recently happened in India. That is the liberalized geospatial policy of 2022, and how the policymakers, how the administrator, how the all stakeholders in the governance system harness the potential that is unleashed by this new geospatial policy is going to be deciding the fate for next 25 years. Because it's a huge country, more than 1.3 billion people, so technology can actually bring in a lot of solutions, transparency, accountability, whatever parameters, global parameters or national parameters we talk about, the technology can actually can be a catalyst and bring in those parameters into reality. Then there is a huge paradigm shift in the outlook of the governance system itself. Now we are talking about that it's not just not rule-based, it is a role-based. Bhumika, finally, what is your role? Finally, rule is there, but what is going to be your role? That is also extremely important. So there is a paradigm shift from rule to role, then fit for purpose to fit for future. So that means we also need overhauling of our capacity. How we are going for a efficiency as well as capacity building and effectiveness for next 25 years or beyond. So that is where actually the governance system has to now look at. And to summarize, whatever we do, all these initiatives or activities, the fruits of all such innovations, activities, or the programs, how these can be brought into one platform and to be used as a force multiplier. So that is the core of, I think, the theme in this Amrit Kal. That is why now we are talking about that there is the departments, the states, the UTs, or the stakeholders need not work in isolation or in silos. There has to be a concerted effort. We call it the whole of the government approach. I think this is a huge shift. This is a huge shift. And I will also like to talk about, there is a punch run by clarion call from our Honorable Prime Minister. So I think there is a paucity of time, so I'm not going into detail. To conclude that this new geospatial policy is one, then we also need to keep in mind the climate change challenges. How our policy, our program, our design, our analysis have to be actually kept in mind that how we are going to tackle this climate change. In a nutshell, since I also represent a department, I'd like to speak two lines. One, that my department, we administer two very key important acts. One is the Land Acquisition Act of 2013 and also the Registration Act. Apart from that, under the Digital India Initiative, we are administering Digital India Land Records Modernization Program. In India, we have more than 6.5 lakh villages. The digitization, computerization of all the land records, the digitization of the cadastral maps, which is 1.68 crore in the country, or the FMBs.
Mr. Bora, if I may ask you to
Yeah, I'll just conclude. So this digitization is already taking place. Alpin, he has already talking about. There is a e-registration process. Multilingual record of rights are actually coming up now. Anytime we are going to roll out. And we're also creating a geo portal for Pan India, where all the cadastral maps will be deposited in one platform. So all these initiatives are actually aimed at for the citizens, ease of living, ease of doing business, for all stakeholders, and unlocking of the economy. I think with these words, I'll conclude here. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bora. In fact, that takes me to the other aspect of the land, which is the rural roads. So, Dr. Goyal, and we are into the third phase of PMGSY, and also with the infusion of technology, you're now talking about smart solutions, looking at performance dashboards, and taking it to the next level, so that the process not only gets additional funding, which is what anyway has been given this year, but also it accelerates. So what is it that we see the emerging paradigm when it comes to the expansion of the rural infrastructure?
Thank you, Mr. Dhanjal, for inviting me here. I am thankful to Mr. Kocher and SKOCH Group. Thank you. And I welcome all the esteemed panelists and distinguished guests. I'll come straight away. There are many emerging governance paradigms. Some of them are increased use of IT, which you have been hearing for last, I think, 2-3 decades. But AI, ML, now ChatGPT is going. So on one hand, AI, ML, ChatGPT and such developments are going to disrupt how we work, how the workplaces work. But at the same time, it is our challenge how to utilize, how to harness their capabilities for governance. I'll give you a live example of PMGSY. We have used AI and ML in a very innovative way. Number one, when we are selecting projects, how do we select projects? Boraji has talked about geospatial technology. So all our proposals are mapped onto GIS. The government of India has launched Gati Shakti. We have been doing that in PMGSY 3 since 2019. So all our proposals are mapped onto GIS. We are able to see whether those roads are actually required or not, whether those roads are the best selection of the roads which needed to be upgraded. They will benefit the maximum population, connect the maximum number of facilities, and carry the maximum traffic in the rural area. So that is how we have been able to select projects for PMGSY 3 so that they give fillip to rural economy. Number two, once you have selected the project, whether the DPR is good or bad, whether it is padded with superfluous provisions and we are spending public money on that. So we created a ML tool. All the DPRs, their data is fed onto our MIS, and by smart scrutiny of those DPR, we could cull out those DPRs which needed to be scrutinized further. And when we scrutinize them further, we have been able to save, mind you, 7,000 crores in just last 2 years. That is more than 15% of the project cost, without compromising on the quality or specifications of those roads. One can very well say that we have reduced the quality or we have reduced the specs. No, without reducing the specs, without reducing the quality, we have been able to save 15% of the project cost. So that is how my ML tool, which costed me nothing, which has given me that kind of a dividend. So have a strong IT team with good data analytics, with good AI and ML people. They will save you a lot of money. Number three, climate change. Whether we agree or not, of course, the climate change debate has taken a beating due to Ukraine war, etc. But the world will come back to this issue of using appropriate technologies so that we can retard climate change and global warming. In PMGSY 3, we have gone in a big way in adopting new technologies actually in the field. IT is in the office, new technologies are actually there in the field. In more than 7,000 kilometers, we have sanctioned using full depth reclamation technology. What it entails is, it obviates mining of new material. The old material which is already there in the road, it is dug up using microprocessor controlled, computer controlled machines, then mixed with cement and some additives, and then it is rolled back with the same machines, and it does not need any new material to be added to the road. So the road level does not increase, the same road, the material is recycled, and it is of a much better quality because each and every process of road building is machine controlled, and at each and every process there is a testing. So UP is building more than 5,500 kilometer roads. They have now been built, and the public's acceptance is like that people want that we want this machine built road, not the conventional road. So that is the acceptance of technology and climate change, because there is no mining, there is no transportation of material, there is no hot processes involved in that, so it has a climate change impact. Fourth, data, big data. How do we use such a big data that we have with the government for public's use? In PMGSY, we had collected geolocated data for 1 million habitations, 7 lakh facilities, 25 lakh kilometers of roads, and 32 layers we had collected. We have opened this data to the public under the open data policy, and more than 20,000 downloads of that data have occurred by researchers, and MapMyIndia is using that data, ESRI is using that data, many private startups and other businesses are using that data, and they are creating solutions for the businesses, for the citizens of this country. And let me reveal you, most of the commercial map apps that commercial organization use, they use MapMyIndia or Indian apps, they all use PMGSY data, which is much richer than what you find in Google Maps. So these are certain things that I want to give insight to, that what the work we are doing, and these are the emerging paradigms. And with a disclaimer, these are not the only emerging paradigms. There are so many paradigms that they are emerging as more and more specialization is occurring in various fields. So newer paradigms will emerge, but they will also be cross-sectoral, and we can learn from each other. I once again thank you, Ms. Scotch Group, for inviting me to give this exposure.
Well, thank you
very
so
much.
much. You know, this is an interesting perspective. We'll come back to you asking for more. Nita, if you may allow me, I'll ask one question from Dr. Kapoor. You know, Dr. Kapoor, the ministry that you are at, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, generally it is considered a sleepy ministry and has been a laggard. In last few years, there has been a remarkable and dramatic change. You know, right from creation of dashboards to DBT to, you know, linking all the schools, which is Eklavya, EMRS, and so on and so forth. This happens to be one of the best e-governed ministries today. How did it happen? How did the change come about? What's been the process or the government process re-engineering that you did?
Thank you, Dhanjal ji. Sameer ji, I'm seeing so many familiar faces here. When I took over in 2018, we didn't have any portal. We had only UC-based system. So there was more than a budget of more than 10,000 crore, but when I joined, I asked how many scholarships we are giving, what are the projects we give to the states, how many scholarships students are there, how many teachers we have in AMRS, where are these schools located, who are the officers working in different states. So we didn't have any database. So it was August 2018, my secretary told me, on 15th of August, we have to ensure that all the areas of the scholarships, they have to be given to the states. So when I started asking how many states areas are pending and what are their proposals, there was hardly anything, and every system was manual. So what we used to do, that was across Government of India, there was a UC-based system. We give money to the states, and they give at the end of the year utilization certificate, paper-based certificate, that we have spent so much. So we started developing portals. DBT mission came to our help. Then we started scholarship portal. On scholarship portal with the help of NIC and many agencies. So now we have every data of every student, and whatever the funds we give to the state, you can see it on our dashboard. Then the grants which we were giving to the states, we developed Adivasi grant management system. There also every fund which we are giving to the state and every project. So it is not only physical and financial progress is monitored on the portal, but it is in public domain. Everybody can see what are the projects which have been given. Likewise, we were giving grant to the NGO and scholarship to the students. So you can see in the corridor, the NGOs are sitting for 2 years, 3 years. There was hardly any transparency and accountability. We developed a portal of NGOs. So now the NGO can see where his project is lying. Even I get a call that my proposal is lying in such and such office for last 15 days or 20 days. So that was, then last of all, when COVID was there, we had a lot of time at that point of time, and we developed a performance dashboard. In performance dashboard, so all the outcomes, as Kocharji said, we give funds to the states, and at the we don't know what are the outcomes and how it has affected the public. So in the performance dashboard, you can see each and every scheme of the ministry and how the states are performing, which are the better performing states, how the funds have been utilized. So that is a performance dashboard and single platform where all the initiatives of the ministry and all the outcomes of the ministry and performance of different stakeholders, you can see that. I'm very thankful to the SKOCH that SKOCH gave us 5 awards for our different initiatives, and happy to say that our website was so poor that there was hardly any data available, and now Data Governance Quality Index of Niti Aayog, for last 2 years, we are one of the best performing ministry, and we are the 3rd ranker among all 75 ministries of Government of India. And just I'll take 1 minute if you permit. So if you see our budget announcements this year, there are majorly 3 budget announcements. One is PVTG mission, Prime Minister PVTG mission. There are 75 PVTGs across India. And even after 75 years, their development was very, very slow. So we are working on a 2047 mission vision document. And secondly, sickle cell anemia, where more than 10% of the tribal communities, they have sickle cell trait. And if before marriage, the boy and the girl knows that they have sickle cell trait and they don't marry, then this disease can be avoided. Thirdly, we are, as Dhanjalji said, we are setting up more than 740 schools. We didn't have any teachers for last 20 years. Most of the teachers, they were either ad hoc or temporary. Now the cabinet has given us approval of recruiting 38,800 teachers in next 2 years. And we will be setting up 452 schools at the remotest blocks of the country with a budget of 30,000 crore in next 3 years. Thank you.
Excellent, great achievements. In fact, this takes me back to the days when we initially, when Dr. Vijayaditya was the Director General of NIC, sat with him and tried to understand as to which are the projects doing well. So there were 3 things happening at that time. One was the land record, second was property registration, and third was the transport. And then he said that, why don't you go to Majuli? Never heard of that place. Why don't you go to Temi? Never heard of that place. Why don't you go down to a remote village, some 50, 70 miles in Thiruvananthapuram, and go and see how this property registration project is working. So that was a challenge. He said it's not easy to explore India. And he used the term NIC is equivalent to mainstreaming the marginalized. And technology actually made it happen. So when we talk about technology, both a boon as well as a bane, while all the projects today, whether it happens to be PMGSY, land records, or the tribal development, but technology has the the negative part, which is the obsolescence cycles are very, very fast. When it started in the beginning, it probably lasted, the solutions lasted 7, 8 years with a few patches, and it carried on. Then they started reducing. Talk of AI, ML, robotics, now we are going into quantum and so on and so forth. So governance paradigm from data governance, land governance, tribal governance, now we're talking about technology governance. How do we move forward?
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me for those days. I think we've really come a long way. I still remember those days when pre-NEGP era, then NEGP, and then getting into digital. Each of this program has its own, I should say, strengths and had really looked at the different aspects of our digitization journey over the time. And if you look at the last 5, 6 years of Digital India program, it is not only that the way IT in governance has really accelerated, but more importantly, the ecosystem around it. Because for any IT system, its adoption is its key success. How is it being adopted at the ground? And how it's been really taken by the people who have to really use this system. And that is where the whole digital infrastructure which got set up as a part of Digital India program, be it broadband, be it mobile revolution, or be it data revolution in the country, has really complemented or really added to this whole journey of digitization of India, or Digital India, so to say. And today, if you look at it, I don't think there's any organization or any department or even any state government or any district level organization, digitization or digital transformation is the basic thing which is happening. It's a kind of sorted problem that you need to go, and people have, have really been not only going digitization, they are actually thinking that how do they really take, what should I say, leverage this potential of digitization which they have done, or all this data we have accumulated over time. And that is now we have been started saying we had an era when we had, I remember a year when everybody was only talking of dashboards and dashboards, then we came to dashboard of dashboards kind of a thing. And I think now is the time with all that data and all, we really need to move towards getting into more of a, what should I say, a proactive governance, wherein now you have the data. Let me give you a simple example of scholarships. You know, a child start getting scholarship from class 1. And now when from class 1, he'll be eligible for class 2 in most of the cases, for class 3, and this year he has to go till at least 12th, and if not further graduation. So why is it every time child has to come and apply for the scholarship? I mean, you just get his performance, whether he has passed a particular class, and continue his scholarship. Maybe a consent is needed. So whole paradigm of, as you say, the governance has to go where it's a proactive delivery, as we have already started seeing in some sectors, like insurance and all, where it is more revenue driven. But in government also, that kind of more our focus. And today we are in a position, because we have accumulated with digitization so much of a data around it. You look at our passports, look at our driving licenses, when they're expiring, we should get a kind of a, not only we should be reminded of this, the process of these renewals should be so simple. There is a digital, why is I have to fill all the form all over again? I just go, update couple of parameters, and my application is done. The whole user experience now has to. Particularly when we are talking of, now making of another aspect of the inclusive governance, where we want everybody to come into this thing, and there you have to really make it simple to access these services. And today I can say with a lot of confidence and pride, it is very much. It's only that we have to change our perspective, that we are not obliging people by giving services. We are giving, we have to look the way private sector looks at it, as far as giving services to our citizens is concerned, and how to make it very simple, very easy. Not only for the people who are privileged people who are in the hinterlands, people who are at the last mile of this delivery of services, who are below poverty line, who are socio-economically this thing. So that's one aspect. So I always say today is a time of predictive governance, today is a time of proactive governance, and today is a time of inclusive governance. Why I'm saying inclusive? Like now with these things like chat GPT and all those language translation happening, it is now possible that you can talk to any IT system in the language you would like to, and if you cannot really write, you can even speak in that language, and that can be on the fly translated to an instruction which machine understands and respond to you. And we've already seen this now. Indian languages also, these solutions are maturing. So that's another aspect, because if we could do this, people even who have, in our our demography is very, very diverse. So people who are challenged by education, who are challenged by language or dialect, or are not that IT savvy, with a simple mobile phone, they should also be able to access services with as much of a simplicity and ease. And that is where, people will be truly empowered, which has been the underlying theme of Digital India program, empowering people with the power of technology. So that's where we need to really go. Now, responding to your concern, particularly governance of technology. Technology, as you've seen, earlier it was every 5 years it was changing. Now it's kind of, it's a continuum cycle. Every day you see a new thing, and that's there to kind of put into disruptions. So I think not only, so this has to be handled at two levels. One is at the procurement level. And second thing, on the development of the systems as is concerned. So the procurement side, it's been, and also the whole methodology of designing and developing this. And that's why this whole paradigm of agile development, where you are never finishing a system incomplete. You do a system, one iteration you have done, then you get to another iteration. So you're always mentally ready that this system and its specifications and technology will change as we go. We're talking of sprints. We are not talking of in terms of phase 1 and phase 2. So the whole system development methodology has to change. In terms of technology procurement, it is becoming, with cloud computing on the anvil, and it's being democratized now. And in India also, we have seen not only government, so much of a private sector digital infrastructure and cloud is happening. With cloud, the advantage is you are really being not concerned what is that. You simply have to ask. You're not thinking that I have bought this server or this technology, now I have to rent for 5 years. You simply have to ask, and the next 6 months you can say, now I was using CPUs, I now need to do a lot of AI processing, I need few GPUs. You simply have to go and ask for these GPUs. So this procurement of infrastructure and its deployment has become far more easier, and I can say it has become quite agile. I use one stack today, I use, let's say, SQL Server today, tomorrow I want to go to Oracle. I really don't have to think, oh, I bought 5 years licenses, what will I do? I have to not answer on my files. So cloud has really added to that agility and is really helping us respond quickly. Let me give you an example. When I was at NIC, and my colleagues are here, lot of national level programs were actually launched using NIC's digital infrastructure. And in none of these programs, any kind of IT systems have been bought. There were times when for doing any IT system, you had to spend months and months for doing RFPs and procuring IT infrastructure, servers, solutions, and then you need to really kind of launch things. So from concept of the program to making it live used to be 6 to 8 months and sometimes years, this thing. In Digital India, we have seen within 2 weeks, sometimes within 6 weeks, we have been able to make program live. And Abhishek is here, who has further accelerated the speed to this thing. So I think the availability of the ecosystem, cloud computing, open source, and the whole methodology which is going towards this, put together is making this thing. But yes, for working this kind of a cycle, there has to be somebody at the lead level who has to really put a design in such a way so that it can accommodate these changes as they come onto this. Thank you.
Thank you. When we talk about India 2047, the GDP estimated at that time $27 billion. Per capita income $21,000, and so on and so forth. The figures look very welcome, but they are daunting at the same time. Not going to happen till such time we actually increase our investments in education system, in higher education. We invest in research and patents, so on and so forth. So I would like to pose this problem as well as question to Mr. Sethi. How do we handle this moving forward so that we are able to fix this and harness, whether with technology or without technology?
Thank you very much. Privileged to have two of my friends, Abhishek and Ashish, in the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, I must thank Sameerji for honoring State of Odisha by giving us a gold medal in the category of e-resources for TLR. In fact, this is a very coveted award, and for a long time, we have been applying, particularly in my personal capacity wherever I had worked, and I'm very happy to say that this time I have made it. So thank you, Sameerji, for honoring us. I remember 3 years ago when I was Relief Commissioner in Odisha, Abhishek knows very well, I handled a monster cyclone called Fani. That time the whole country was in the election mode, and the election had just been concluded in Odisha. That was on 29th of April 2019. Honorable Chief Minister being in Delhi, and all other officers were very much fatigued. And for quite some time, I think from 25th of April onwards, the IMD had been predicting some cyclone somewhere they have been, showing the path from Sri Lanka, and never there was a prediction that it will be heading to Odisha. Though I was keeping a track on that, and on, I think, just 48 hours before, they said that this will be hitting a town called Puri. And we had been, preparing. And the whole world knows that, how we handle the monster funny. New York Times wrote in the headline that why did the monster cyclone funny did not kill 40,000 and it killed only 40. The context is that in the year 1999, there was a super cyclone in Odisha. Those days, the cyclones were not named, and that took away precious 10,000 people. And the devastation was so enormous that the government of the day did not come back, and it has not yet been able to, show its strength. And the government which came to power, they built on the capability of the state. They became very responsive to the needs of the people, to the issues of climate change, and they built large number of cyclone centers, embankments, and we have been talking about here IT. There is a dominance of IT, but they did IT, but they also built on the social processes. Like when there was a cyclone like Fani, so the electricity was out and all communications were out, and the electricity in a district called Puri did not come up for another 30 days. And the people, you remember that the people could come to the street if there is a shortage of water and the food. So, but there was nothing such happened. The mobilization happened in such a way that we were appreciated by Government of India, by United Nations and everywhere. What I wanted to say is that over a period of 2 decades, the government has also been working with the people, the social processes. And when you have a over-dominance of IT, I think, sometimes you lose track of the social processes that you should be also looking for example. Because I got this insight by working as a cyclone manager. Like there are, people on the hilltops in the inaccessible areas. And if you don't have people to reach out to those elderly population or people with physical disabilities, so I'm sure, you are leaving those people to die. And there was a time in British India that, where all the time we criticize British government that 60 million people died in India because of hunger and poverty during the British rule, or they call it unrule. And they are so unresponsive. But today it is not possible because there is so much of democracy has become deep-rooted. The people are so responsive. If they find that, you are not doing what you should have done, I think, they will challenge you at the election time or otherwise on a daily basis. And you might have come to know that, there are two things which are ruling government of Odisha. One is a 5T principle. I think, there is a talk in, various media. And the 5T basically means technology, transparency, teamwork, timeliness, and leading to transformation. And this is a philosophy which cuts across all the departments. So if you have to, if there is a new technology, it must be adopted, whether it is agriculture, whether it is fishery, whether it is veterinary, or either it is data science or artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all that. So you have to adopt this technology. And it must really be transparent. And there is another philosophy which governs the state of Odisha, that is called Moh Sarkar. There is a philosophy which is driven in very deep home in every government officer, that you get salary from the taxes which are paid by the common man. So whenever you go to a government office and they will be offering, there is a reception counter, and there all the 5T charters, the Moh Sarkar principles are written in the local language. You will be given water, and your telephone number will be noted down, and this will be paid to a kind of a database. And the person who went there got some service or got some responses. You will get some random calls, either from the secretary of the department or from the minister or from the Honorable Chief Minister himself. And this has been a practice for last 3 years from 2019. So if the response is negative, I think something will happen to the officer concerned, but then the systemic improvements do take place. For example, I was revenue secretary, and Mr. Vora, who has done some good work in land reform. So earlier, for a case of a mutation, like you purchase the land and you need to get your ROR, records of right, in your name. And it used to take, there was no time limit. You know, it could take for 3 months, 4 months, 2 years. I remember when I joined as a sub-collector in a tribal district more than 20 years ago. So during one of the hearings, one tribal fellow came and said that I have been running to the revenue inspector for my ROR, and every time I go there, he asks me a goat or a hen or some money. And for 4 years, I am not getting an ROR. And this is basically a copy of the old document. His house was burnt some times back, and it is a natural thing that one can get a certified copy. But that was not given. But today, in Odisha, after your registration, within few hours, within the day, your ROR would be issued. So what I want to say is that we have used technology, and we have become very responsive, and these, the people's expectations are also rising from day to day. There are timelines, like, for example, for delivery of...
We need to actually move on to Abhishek ji, if you could wind up.
Okay. So my point is that, the 5T principle or Mo Sarkar principle, these are very dynamic in nature, they're evolving in nature, the expectations of people are increased, the standards also are kept increasing from time to time. You talked about the higher education art preparedness. Similarly, we would like the best of the education to be offered, like the award that you have given us, it is for e-resources. Earlier, if you have to really find books for your library or the journal, you have to pay a lot of money. It was not possible to give some to 2,500 colleges and 1,600 universities. If you have to buy the costly journals from the Elsevier or EBSCO and all that, then you have to pay, I think, thousands of crores. It is not possible. With 12 crores of rupees, we have got subscription, and it's an open Athens login system that a child, an undergraduate student or a PG student or a scholar or teacher can get access and can download any material that he or she waits. So as I said that, we are gearing up, we are doing a lot of things that we need to improve our education system so that by 2044, we become a very rich nation. I have no time, so this is all that I thought I should just say.
That's wonderful.
Thank you very
in
much.
fact, the road in front of us is pretty wide and long. And I'm sure moving forward there would be hurdles. But yes, we have achieved quite a lot. Welcome, Abhishek ji, for taking time out and being with us. If you look at your own journey, you've been a digital man throughout, for a very long time, from MyGov to NEGD to DIC. Although you have had probably the longest stint in different avatars, in different positions. India today boasts of the largest number of unicorns, also the largest startup ecosystem, largest number of UPI transactions equivalent to probably all the cards put together anywhere in the world. There has definitely been an economic impact of digitization and digitalization too. So far it is visible. How do we take it to the next level, that when we talk about 2047 and X maybe 25, 26 or $27 billion, how is it that we accelerate it and make it contribute in a larger perspective? Over to you.
Thank you, Guru Sharan. And first and foremost, I apologize for being late for this very important session. I got stuck in a meeting that continued longer, but I was keen to especially hear from the stalwarts who are there on the panel, right from Neeta Vermaji to Ashish, who has done great work in Kumbh and doing great work in rural development, to Vishnu, my batchmate. Both of them are my batchmates, incidentally. And Vishnu has excelled, as he mentioned, about how you use leverage technology for disaster prevention, and now, of course, using it for educational outcomes. I wish we had longer time so we could have heard more about from him. And Navaljeet ji, the work that he has done for the Tribes India and is really phenomenal. So it's indeed a privilege to be here. And coming to what Gursharan mentioned to me, like when he was mentioning about digital avatars, I was thinking whether we have gone into a metaverse and looking into avatars and looking into how we will see technology unfolding. So while we, as he mentioned, we have seen a great impact happening in the last few years with regard to how India has used digital technologies for transforming governance, empowering people, and ensuring that services reach to the people in a better manner. And we all are aware of the story of whether it's the Aadhaar or the UPI, digital payments, or the DigiLocker, or the entire ecosystem which is transforming healthcare, education, agriculture, skilling through multiple projects. But we need to also look on, it's right that we have built transformational projects, platforms through the India Stack, whether it's Diksha for giving education to K-12, e-Sanjeevani for telemedicine, or the vaccination platform for vaccinating not only for COVID-19, but now being transformed to become the universal vaccination engine, or the agriculture, in the recent budget, there was an announcement with regard to the project that will be taken up in agriculture, which will transform the way farmers use inputs and access markets for increasing their incomes. So while we are doing so, what we need to look at, I would like to mention, when we are especially thinking of 2047, though in technology field, one should never make predictions beyond 5 to 10 years, because if you look at, like when we were asked to make our roadmap from technology for the next 25 years, I asked my team to look back at 25 years back. If we go back 25 years from today, it will be what, 1997, 98? So in that point of time, had any one of us would have been predicted the impact technology will make in the 25 years. So while with that caveat, I think still if we have to think of, and especially from the point of view of India, I will try to make what we need to do in the next 5 to 7 years, and that will build the foundations for going up to 1947. So today we are at a cusp where we are a stage wherein multiple departments are implementing multiple projects and the citizens are benefiting greatly. What we need to do next is that how do we connect these silos, how do we connect these individual systems into an integrated manner so that citizens can access services in a whole of government approach? How do we ensure that a citizen is not concerned whether he has to go to rural development or to Panchayati Raj or to agriculture or to cooperation or to any other department for accessing a service? A citizen knows only Sarkar. He knows he should have one common entry point of the government. He makes the request that I want a ration card, or I want health, I want any kind of benefit. Within the government, the back end of the government should be able to allocate it to various ministries which are there and ensure that the citizens gets the service. So that is what we need to aspire for, that is what we need to go for, in connecting disparate systems, giving it a whole of government approach and ensuring that citizens are serviced better and they get a better quality, better experience while doing with the government. The second thing that we need to do is that very often all the welfare schemes and all the measures that we are implementing is very often a citizen applies for these services. It's the citizen to government. Like very often the responsibility under our scheme of things is the government to deliver services, but very often we make citizen to apply for a scholarship, to apply for a pension, to apply for a PM Kisan. So instead of that, can we think of turning it around and can we think of ensuring that entitlement-based delivery of services is there? If the government knows, if there is a beneficiary about whom we know that he is belonging to a particular category which is entitled for scholarships, and we also know from the education database that he is also a student and is eligible for a scholarship, is there a need for him to apply for the scholarship? Can we turn this around and say that government will proactively offer you the scholarship? The money will reach into bank account. We'll take one-time consent from the citizens for using the data that we have and ensuring that anything that is due to him is given to him. If the land records say that somebody is a farmer and that ensures that he is entitled for a PM Kisan benefit, should he need to apply for that, or can we give it to him automatically? So that kind of paradigm shift we are trying to build. We have already built a project called My Scheme, myscheme.gov.in. What it does is that very often what we realize that another pain point that citizens had in accessing services was that very often the beneficiaries for whom a scheme is designed, they don't know that there is a scheme that exists. Because some obscure department will be offering that service and people will not know its URL or the app, even if it's online, and they will never be able to know that there is a scheme that can give them benefit. So we said that can we kind of map all the schemes that the government is implementing, put up in various verticals, and try to see which are the eligibility conditions that are common, and instead of citizen going to multiple websites, he goes to myscheme.gov.in, says that I am so and so, I am 40-year-old, I am from Bihar, I am a farmer, I am my annual income is 10,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees, and based on that, the system throws up, these are the schemes that you might be eligible for. So that scheme discovery engine is already built, it's already live on on myscheme.gov.in. So that allows citizens to discover schemes. That also will allow in the next phase for them to apply for schemes then and there, so that he doesn't need to go to multiple portals to apply. He can apply from then and there after seeing the eligibility. And when he's applying, there also we are building a principle called ask only once. If the government system knows about something about a particular citizen, we just ask him, are you agreeing, we take his consent. Suppose his DigiLocker data with regard to Aadhaar, with regard to PAN card, with regard to driving license, with regard to his academic certificates, says that yes, his date of birth is this. Government knows it. In one of the government databases there. And his address is this. Then we will not ask him to prove that again. We'll just take his consent if he agrees to that. If he says he wants to change his address or something, it's a different matter. But if he gives his consent, then we will not ask the citizen to prove the same credential again and again, which is going to reduce the hardship that citizens have in accessing that service. And after he has applied, the same portal will allow him to track the benefit of that service. Like when is the service being delivered, and whether it's meeting the SLAs, will meeting the citizen charter for the delivery of that service. So that's the one way in which it's being architected, which will ensure that citizens are able to access services in a more easier manner. The second thing on the same platform that we are trying to build is that can we use eligibility conditions of a one scheme and share that data and information with the consent of the user to another department and ensure proactive delivery of services. Like for example, if Manrega beneficiaries are poorest of the poor, they are doing 100 days of wage labor, they are getting, they're doing physical labor to get the whatever is guaranteed to them by the Manrega Act, then if they are eligible for that, they might also be eligible for, say, Ayushman Bharat Health Insurance Scheme, the PMJ scheme. So if this information is shared, and if that database of PMJ is not matching this, can the health department, NHA, decide to offer them health insurance proactively without they applying to it? So that will again change the way we look at the government to citizen interface. Instead of citizen approaching the government, can the government reach out to citizens and offer him services in a proactive manner? So that's something which is possible today with the state of technology that we are living in. That's totally possible. All it requires is a very seamless way of exchange of data between various government departments and offering it. The other main development that I see happening in the next few years is making services available in Indian languages, in all Indian languages. So very often all government websites, portals, they offer services in English, Hindi, and maybe a few regional ones offer in their own languages. Odisha will do Odisha, but Odisha will not do Tamil. Tamil Nadu will not do Odia. So if we can, the Bhashini project which is being built up, it is going to ensure that multiple services are available in all Indian languages, and not only text access in multiple Indian languages, even a voice-enabled services which are there. The Bhashini APIs, bhashini.gov.in is the portal. The Anuvad tab on bhashini.gov.in allows seamless speech-to-speech translation, speech-to-text, text-to-speech, and text-to-text translation. The plugins, the APIs which are being developed there will allow any department to integrate that and ensure that their services are available in all Indian languages. The Bhashini app, which is live on the Play Store and the App Store, allows you to do the same thing on a mobile platform. So language is going to be the next big thing. And we hope that we are already doing a pilot on the Umang platform, wherein citizens can go to the Umang platform and ask for a service. Just like you ask Alexa, the Siri, the Google Assistants, you can go and say that, hey Umang, how do I get a passport? So it can offer that. We have also tested a pilot on integrating the same service on a WhatsApp interface, because we realize that many citizens are not very comfortable in going to websites or going to apps and downloading them, entering CAPTCHA and identifying traffic lights or identifying cars or identifying zebras in many cases, because that makes access more and more difficult. So instead of that, if voice becomes the input, and this has been tested, wherein people go ask on a WhatsApp voice note, how do I get PM Kisan scheme? Or what is PM Ujjwala scheme? The reply comes back on voice. And the same service can also be offered on a feature phone on which people can call a toll-free number, give input by voice, the backend processes it and gives the information back to the citizen on voice. So that would be true inclusion, wherein anybody sitting anywhere in India can access such a service on the mobile platform. So all this will of course transform governance services with the other investments that are being made in pushing electronics manufacturing, in ensuring that a fab is set up. The path ahead, and if you look at 2047, is going to be quite disruptive. So the normal modeling that our GDP will be $27 billion and all might work with the normal economic theory. But if we look at the disruptive impact of technology, disruptive impact of providing access to information, and the disruptive impact of the power of 1.4 billion people that can achieve, this number can be breached. This number can go much ahead. So I will not risk making a prediction, but I can only say that the path on which we are on, it's only going up and no looking back. And with the impact of the billion plus Indians, we will surely achieve the place that is destined, that we are destined to achieve by 2047. So that's all I wanted.
Well, thank you so much. That's excellent. In fact, three takeaways here. You also said what we've been discussing just before you joined in, that the planning actually should be with the horizon of 25 years, but to keep first 5 years and then next 5 years, because that is the only way the road is going to open up in front of you. Second is the demand side governance. It's very important. Third is interoperability, because now every other department is also, which is what Kapoor Saab, you also talked about, that how is it that the benefits, which is what the tribals can, with the, the help of any other department could also be brought in. Same is the story with the Department of Land Resources. So quickly, just to wind up, I wanted to hear from you about the road connectivity in LWE areas, because that is something that's been lagging forever. But now there is a renewed focus on that. So probably in the next as many years, whatever the road construction has happened, the milestones have been achieved. But road connectivity in LWE, why has it suffered? And now when it has started, what's the road ahead?
Yeah, so the government is going ahead in a very big manner to connect the LWE areas. And there have been many challenges. What you have to realize is that once a road is built, road is the first ray of development that goes into that area. And once the road is built, that area becomes the mainstream. Now then everything can go. The security forces can go, health services can go, education can go, economic integration with the market can go. So we face a lot of resistance still in many areas while building the roads. But let me tell you, we are getting there. More and more roads are being connected. More and more bridges are being built in those areas, especially on the borders of the districts, borders of the state, where those ridges and rivers used to be the dividing line and gave refuge to such forces. Now more roads and more bridges are being built. And yes, in the next 2 to 3 years, with the effort of both state government and central government and the amount of funds that is being given there, most of these areas will be well connected.
Thank you. Kapoor Saab, most of these roads also pass through the tribal areas. So how is it that the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and when we talk of interoperability, with the help of technology and otherwise in terms of policy, collaborating with the rural roads?
If you have heard Honorable Prime Minister's speech on 15th of August 2021 as well as 22, he has talked about saturation based on gap analysis. So all the roads which are in remote areas, LWE areas, as far as our ministry is concerned, based on Antodaya mission data, we analyzed gap analysis of 1,45,000 districts, villages, out of which 1,17,000 villages are tribal villages which have more than 25% population. Out of those villages, we identified 36,428 villages which have population of more than 500, and 50% of them, they are tribal. So we are saturating with the help of STC, Scheduled Tribe component, which is more than 1 lakh crore every year, and major component is of rural department. Roads, electricity, water, health services, education, water supply, irrigation. If there is a possibility of bank, then bank or post office, and lastly, the livelihood activities like Vandhan Vikas Kendra. So this is a big initiative of about 12 major ministries. We are in a saturation mode, and Already we have identified and given funds to 15,000 villages in last 2 years, and I'm very hopeful by 26 we'll be saturating these 36,000 villages.
Excellent initiative. Thank you so much. Neetaji, your concluding comments before we wind up the discussion.
No, I would just like to say there are two aspects we need to be really working on. First is with so much of a digitalization, we have amassed so much of a data, but we are still not leveraging that data to the way we should be leveraging. We really need to up our efforts, go beyond dashboards, create insights from these data and get into whether it is our policy making, whether it's delivery of services, or whether it is going on to, identification of beneficiaries and whether it is fraud prevention. Everywhere data can play a big role. So lot of focus on making the real sense out of this data and making this whole process more effective and efficient is one aspect. Second aspect, with the kind of development we have seen in the language technologies, we've been talking for this for so many years. We really need to get into leveraging these technologies to get into a truly inclusive governance. As Abhishek was saying, you have designed a scheme, but the person for whom you have actually designed the scheme is today still not in a position to avail that scheme. Either is not aware, even if it's aware, system is not really at that level he or she can directly interact. The basic thing like getting a ration card, becomes a challenge when you're trying to help people around you. So how do you make that whole delivery of service inclusive and a good experience? And that today I very strongly believe with AI, ML, with language technology, with data is very much possible. This is the most exciting time to really do e-governance applications, which really give that wow factor, Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. With this, I thank our esteemed panel, Abhishek ji, Naval ji, Vishnu ji, Ashish ji, Neeta ji, Bora ji is just left. And with this, I invite everyone, let's go in front of the stage and do a group photograph.
So, one of the things that we've been trying to do is, these are people who run Bharat. We also have people who run India here. There's private sector and then there's the government. And what we've been trying to do over the past 2-3 conferences is to bring them together so that, the private sector can leverage all the great things that the government is doing and see how we can make IT and digitalization more universal and accessible. And similarly, there are a thing or two to be learned from the private sector in terms of agility and decision making. So I just wanted to formally introduce the Bharat runners to the India runners. So may I invite the 3 CIOs who've joined us from Mumbai. We have Kirsi Tavadia, who's from Bombay Stock Exchange. We have Rucha Nanavati. She is the group CIO for Mahindra and Mahindra. She looks after 100,000 employees. And we have Mr. Sanjeevan Shirke, who looks after Unit Trust of India. And they're also part of, please come here, and we can have a group photo. So we have the number 1 lady CIO from the government, and we have the number 1 lady CIO from the corporate sector, both together. Thank you very much. With this, we move on to the next session, but all the panelists, please stay for lunch. A lot of mehnat and pyar has gone into making it.
So while we've been talking about the contributions made by the government and the people at the helm of the government, the contributions made by the corporate and the people at the helm cannot be ignored. In the same vein, it is my pleasure to invite Ms. Rucha Nanavati, CIO Mahindra Group, to receive a special award for CIO. A big round of applause for her. A proponent of diversity and inclusion, she is one of the rare women CIOs in India. She is a global leader with experience in enabling business strategies through technology solutions. She has led successful digital transformations in multiple industries across the globe, including high-tech, retail, and manufacturing. Her passion to serve the motherland brought her back to India. She believes in cultivating an engineering culture and is known for developing and directing large, global, cross-functional tech teams. She is recognized for her transformational work through technology in multiple industries across multiple geographies. With an unwavering zeal, she has been working towards developing population-scale strategies and is actively contributing to the CIO Agenda Task Force constituted by the SKOCH Group. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Rucha. You know, in the IT industry, ladies are not so common. And CIOs as ladies are absolutely uncommon. There are very, very few. I don't think I can name another lady who's a private sector CIO, not that I know of. I may be wrong, but there may be two or three more or something like that. And I think it's absolutely commendable what Rucha has been able to achieve. Such a large organization, and she is the group CIO. So, a few words from you, Rucha.
Thank you so much, first of all, for having me here and for this honor. I think I'm going to pick up where Neeta ji had left. I think the last thing she talked about was teams, right? One of my favorite quotes is from Rudyard Kipling, wrote Jungle Book on a boy who grew up in jungles of India, right? One of the lines there, it says, "For the strength of the wolf is the pack, and the strength of the pack is the wolf." I think if we are standing here as a leader, it is because there is so much that has gone in from all the people who have supported us, especially the teams that have supported us to get here. We are nothing. We are as fast as our team and as slow as our teams, right? So thank you for recognizing all the collective work that we've done so far. I think it'll be remiss to not think of the mentors who have shaped us at this point, and I've been very fortunate, from the biggest influence on my life was my mother, to have supportive families. I think people who have worked in IT, you know that it's not a 9-to-5 job, even if you're in government. IT is not a 9-to-5 job anywhere. So unless you are supported from all the ecosystem around you, you can't achieve what I'm standing here for. So thank you so much for recognizing that. I've had very fortunate to be able to work in many industries, many geographies, and all of that coming together and being able to make the impact. I think that's what drives us more. I hardly believe people who are here, who are such achievers, are about titles or money or anything like that. It's the impact you are making. And the ability to make the impact in India is just tremendous. I think when you look at the scale for any of the things that have been done, the best of payments, best of health yojanas and all that, that's what drives, I think, all of us, even in private sector, if I may say so. At the end of the day, unless we touch, I think for Mahindra especially, our philosophy is Mahindra Rise, which is about not just, if you look at, if I may take a minute, if you look at Mahindra's memento that was originally published memo when the company was founded in 76, 77 years ago, it didn't say we're going to make cars. It did not say we are going to make tractors. It said none of that. It talked about industrialization of India. It talked about betterment of farmers. It talked about betterment of community at large. So that's what, even in private sector, that's what we are striving for. And I'm very, very proud to be part of that and very proud to be part of this organization as well. Thank you so very much for recognizing.
Thank you very much. Do stay. Some picture opportunities I can't resist. Neetaji is left already? I wanted to be flanked by the two ladies. She's not there.
Yeah,
okay. So next picture opportunity is I would also like to introduce all of you to Mr. Rajiv Batra, who's from Bennett Coleman. He's also part of our CIO agenda task force. Rajiv, are you there? Yeah, please come. My mistake, I missed him in the last picture because somehow Mumbai was kind of bigger in numbers. So Rajiv was also an award winner for us, and please join us here. And if Sanjeevan and Kirsi can also come and join us, then we can do a group picture of all the CIO agenda task force members. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So give us a
We're
moment
going
as
to
we
be
set
coming
the
right
stage.
back. They're going to set up the stage. Yeah, can you switch to my PPT, please? So while they're setting up the stage, we talked a lot about volunteerism this morning, and that's what keeps us going. And that is what is the strength of SKOCH Group, that so many senior people come and contribute their time. So while historically we've drawn a lot from the academia, we've drawn a lot from the government, from regulators, from bankers, it is perhaps for the first time that we've been able to draw from very enlightened people from the private sector who are helping us solve very large problems for the country. So if you look at the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of India 2047, which is India to be a higher middle income country by then, what we really need is spatially dispersed, job generative, equitable growth. And that cannot happen without very active involvement from the government as well as the private sector. And if you look at how the private sector can be globally competitive as well as deliver to these objectives is through reducing cost while expanding business, which is scalability, sustainability, and security. So we said that can some of the best practices be identified and we learn from the private sector. So we set up a task force. So I invite some of the members who are here already, please do join us on the stage. I've already introduced you. So Kirsi, please come. Come Rajiv, come Rucha. So I just want to take you through what we've done so far. I'll try and be very fast about it. So the reason why we're all together is we are examining public digital infrastructure and can corporate sector use it. You've got incredible things like the India Stack, DigiLocker, Aadhaar, so on and so forth. So how can this be utilized by the private sector? And how do you make total economic impact of all the digitalization and IT initiatives in India be felt louder in the country? So our approach was primary and secondary research, and we've set up these committees. Each CIO setting is participating in or heading one of the committees. The core group is Sanjeevan Shirke, Rucha Nanavati, Anish Shah, who's from Jio, Kirsi, who's from BSC, Manoranjan Kumar from Shree Cements, Arvind Siva Ramakrishnan from Apollo, Rajiv Batra from Bennett Coleman, Avinash Raghavendra, CIO Axis Bank, Shiv Bhasin from NSC, Shiju Rathar from SBI Mutual Fund, KRC Murthy from Kotak Mahindra, and Mr. Sudhir Nair, who heads Apple in India. So it's just a core group, and we hope to have close to 100 members from the private sector in this, who are going to say how India is going to scale to a higher middle income country by 2047. So besides this, you have Dr. Phatak is there as one of the members who's giving us the inspirational guidance from the academics. So, based on the discussions we had, it was decided that we will find a total economic impact task force in the area of cloud, network and security, database security, endpoint, and overall security. The reason you see a lot of security here is, I think, one of the daunting issues that the country faces is security. And when this task force was set up, it was set up in the background of the AIIMS cyber attack. The entire medical system of AIIMS was held at ransom due to this cyber security issues, and we found that the threat came from the PCs. So while data centers, etc., are very secure, a lot of effort goes there. The least secure area is the endpoint, which is the front point where the user sits. So the task force areas have been divided, and then we said that could we go and look at why is it that India ends up buying suboptimal endpoints. So when you are saying that most of the security vulnerability is at the endpoint, the point essentially is that are secure endpoints not available, or are they expensive, or are they considered expensive? So we find the general perception was that while it is important to have endpoint security, it is possibly a little more costly to buy a secure endpoint than a regular PC. Now, I come from a background, we are SKOCH, we are MSME, we rather micro side of MSME, and even we use very secure endpoints because we have a freedom of choice and we have the experience curve behind us. I mean, SKOCH is almost an entirely Mac environment. We were earlier not on Mac, we were on regular PCs, and the kind of nightmares we've faced due to cyber attacks, to ransomware and things like that. And ever since we moved to a Mac environment, for the past almost 4 or 5 years, we've had zero problems. And one of the things that we find is that none of our Macs retires. When we have a normal PC or laptop, every 1.5, 2 years, we need to replace it because it goes defunct. But the laptop from Mac that we bought, let's say 8 years back, is still being used in the organization. So it got us thinking as to why more and more people are not in a more secure environment. Now, this is not about Mac or PCs. This is basically about a more heavy-duty endpoint, more secure endpoint PC. That seems to be a national requirement if we have to face on the cyber threats. So when we talked to the CIOs and we said that, why is it that you say that all this is true and the senior management and some people do get Macs, why is it that not everyone gets Macs? So the common refrain from all CIOs was that it's a tough sell to CFOs. So when you go to chief financial officers, they look at, let's say, there's the price is X for a PC, but the cost for a Mac may be X.2. So how do you justify that? And they look at just that initial procurement cost. So we said that, is there a better way of looking at it? So we looked at international best practices in the case, and we found that Forrester for 20 years, it's a very large consulting company, has been doing work in the area of total economic impact, which looks at IT impact, business impact, risk and uncertainty, and strategic impact. It combines all of this to put a value to the thing. So we said that if these are the imperatives for a business case, then what are the key cost areas? So it is IT support and operational costs. So when you buy a PC, you buy a endpoint, how much does it take you to support it? Hardware and software costs, what you're spending directly. Risk of data breach, if your data is breached, then what is the cost? And how much of employee performance and engagement happens or improves because of productivity improvements and so on and so forth. So if you look at, there were 4 concepts earlier. There used to be a concept called total cost of ownership. Then came the concept of return on investment, and then TEI. The reason why I'm mentioning it here specifically in the government sector, I think we still look at only TCO, which is IT cost and IT cost savings. We have not even gone to ROI, which is business impact, user efficiency, business effectiveness. Forget total economic impact, which actually looks at risk mitigation, risk versus reward, scalability, and flexibility as well. Now, increasingly you find that your government systems are competing with the private systems. You are far more population scale, and each government system, whether it's in the area of health, education, panchayati raj, roads, etc., is a nationally critical infrastructure, so the security cannot be taken lightly. So we thought if we do a study in the private sector and see what is the total economic impact of a more sturdier endpoint security, perhaps government may, and other sectors or other players in the private sector also may take note of that and start doing a total economic impact for all their IT investments. So we did this study over very large organizations, enterprise organizations. We've covered organizations that have close to 150,000 employees. And this is interview based, and the data that we got for this was taken from the organizations directly. So, you know, time to provision a PC is 120 minutes. From the time you receive to you get started on a PC, it takes 120 minutes. On a Mac, it takes 7 minutes. Support tickets on a PC are 6 annually. On a Mac, it's 1 annually. Average ticket cost per PC to fix that is 2,500 rupees. Average ticket cost per Mac is 666 rupees. PCs managed per IT field, you know, engineering executive is 1,000 PCs, and Mac devices managed is 2,500, because you can manage a lot more of them together. And all of this adds up to cost. In our current procurement procedures, I don't think we take cognizance of any of these. So average cost for a PC, which is a notebook, is 60,000 rupees. Average cost for a Mac is 70,000. PC residual value after 4 years is only 2.5%. It's basically junk. Mac residual value after 4 years is still 20%. You can actually sell it if you're not using it. OS cost is 0. Endpoint security license per PC is $40, which is like all the antivirus and stuff that you put on it. On Mac, we need to put nothing. And this data is from our own before and after security costs. And energy costs are much lower. Everyone is bothered about the climate footprint and the carbon footprint. Energy cost for a PC is 850 rupees per annum. On a Mac, it's 211 because it takes very less power. So the total cost, if you do a 4-year calculation, you would find that a far securer, sturdier endpoint is actually about 5,000 rupees cheaper than a PC would. Now, I am sure if you talk to the PC company, they'll give some calculation that justifies this, but all I'm saying is that we really have to look at a total economic impact and see how all these things add up to our purchase decisions. So while we do, while we are still, this is work in progress, and we are trying to make a business document which we will publish as to what is the total economic impact of making a secure endpoint. So it's not about whether it's vendor X or vendor Y or vendor Z. Our focus is how do you have a secure endpoint which is less vulnerable and delivers to organizational effectiveness better, so that India can become a higher middle income country by 2047. So this part is looking at only that. Similarly, we have other areas where subcommittees have been formed, and that is where we have this panel, and they're going to be sharing with us what are the other areas we are going to look at. And like we have come out with a methodology on calculating a total economic impact of an endpoint, what could we do for network, what we could do for databases, what could we do it for cloud, and each one of them is an expert in those areas. So we'd like to get the ball rolling on that discussion. So Gursharan, is the format presentations or are we talking? Talking, okay. So start talking with Richa. So she was giving me a very nice, simile about Sita Maiya and the Lakshman Rekha. So I thought that I'll get her to talk about it and say that what is this new Lakshman Rekha that cannot be breached.
I'll confess, I borrowed it from one of the events, but I thought it was so compelling. The topic I was trying to address, or we were trying to address, is network security. And the analogy was that why was Sita Haran happened? If she had not crossed Lakshman Rekha, she would not, it was not possible to kidnap her, right? She outstepped and the issue happened. Now, none of our, so if you think about Sita as end user, and that Lakshman Rekha is your data center and the perimeter that you have set, it doesn't hold true anymore, right? The network is about connectivity. Connectivity is our lifeline today. The revolution that has happened, especially in a country like us, that cell phones have brought is unparalleled. And now we have to make sure that every connection, because we want to do so much on that, is protected. So our end user, our Sita, is not in one place. It's not behind Lakshman Rekha. She is everywhere. And there has to be a Lakshman Rekha around her, wherever she goes. This was the analogy. But the point is that, gone are the days, I think Neetaji was also referring to this, gone are the days when our crown jewels were in our data center. They were highly fortified and protected behind a network that only belonged to us. And our users came within that network and accessed our crown jewels, and they were safe. That is entirely not true. The whole thing has been, flipped upside down. Our crown jewels are everywhere, right? Because you're using SaaS applications, you are on your data center, you are on edges, they may be your own edges, but you're there. You are on public cloud, you're maybe on private setup of cloud. So your data, your most critical applications, your core systems are everywhere. And of course, Sita is everywhere, because our user is mobile. The most important equation today has become in any sector, private or public sector, is frictionless customer experience, user experience, which means you go to the user, the customer, in whichever channel they want, they wish to have. Do they want to come into your branch for banks and interact with you? Or maybe they're like me, nothing other than mobile. I don't want to even talk to anybody. Give me a fantastic app, it better work, and I'm good, but it also has to be very, very secured. So today the question, the equation of securing our network and connectivity at large, I'm not just going to say network, connectivity at large has become a multi-to-multi equation. It's not one-to-many, it is many-to-many across the board, which forces us to think a little differently from how we were thinking about it even 10 years ago or 5 years ago, as to how are we securing our data. The tenants are not going to change. I think I'll invite Rajiv to talk about it as well. We still need confidentiality, we need integrity, we need availability, right? Our CIA has not changed at all. But how you achieve it and where your players are completely different. You were talking about endpoint security, right? We are everywhere. Systems are everywhere, users are everywhere. Do you want to add something?
I'll roll with that. So So she's given the scary scenario at the endpoint. Now, one of the scary places I've really been to is Bombay Stock Exchange, and they have this huge security operations center. And they were showing me. So can you just describe the kind of threats that come to your Bombay Stock Exchange, and from what kind of infrastructure have you? No, just look at the scenario that he described as the data center, and if you contextualize it to what Rucha has said, practically what is happening at your data center in terms of threats is now going to be happening at your endpoint everywhere. So just imagine the magnitude of the problem.
So firstly, let me just give you nothing to be scared. This is business as usual. So stock exchanges are safe, so don't scare people that it is scary. Okay.
Not scary. How you made them secure?
No, so the reason is very simple. Like she said, today our Sita is still in the data center. Like, the jewel crowns are still within the data center, and the typical security systems is what we develop is defense in depth. So it is not one solution fits all or one for all. For different solutions, different tools are there. So it's definitely very, very difficult for anybody to come and penetrate into the systems. Like, for example, we get almost more than 15,000 attacks per hour on the DDoS side, per hour. So you can imagine in a day, and you have to prevent every attack, you have to nullify every one of them. So that's a kind of continuous. So it's not that. So that's why the dashboards are even not very, very relevant. It is just an indicative thing of what is happening, because the numbers are changing so fast. So it's like DDoS is one of the typical things which keep happening. Okay. Then there are people who are trying to misbrand, take away your sites. We also do we ourselves try and monitor what's floating in the dark webs. We have to subscribe to this kind of service. Somebody is trying to impersonate your site, or somebody is trying to, at so many times we have seen our clients who are our clients, their data is getting leaked somewhere. For the same endpoint issue which is there, if it's there on his endpoint, it's like a bank's client, we know it's not the bank's fault, but we know the client's password is known to somebody else. So we also educate our clients, somebody please fix your endpoint, something is wrong with your endpoint, nothing wrong with us. So we get that, so it's a 360 degree, it's a customer review. We go and tell the customers that you are our customer. Tomorrow it should not happen that somebody hacked my account, somebody operated my account. So when these kind of things which are happening at the endpoint, we monitor. A lot of things are there at the application vulnerabilities continuous, like what you mentioned. Like today, when we develop an application, earlier it was always meant for a desktop. It was always a PC version. Okay. Now you have to check whether it's vulnerability, how vulnerability is on a PC, how it works on a Mac, how it works on a mobile, how it works on an iPhone, how it works on different versions of mobile. So the problem is not only, the biggest problem with the Android is there's no standardization in Android. Okay. There are multiple Android OS versions. There are multiple manufacturers of Android itself who have multiple versions. Okay. The good part about iPhone is there's only one version. Okay, and there is always, all of them are downgrade compatible and upward compatible. So that's one good thing about it. But when you do it on an Android, we don't know whether the feature will work on all the Androids or not. So these are so many challenges when you're making the system work. So we have to worry about all these kind of securities. So even when you're making an application, it's easier to make an application and getting the VAPT or the security at least pass.
Yeah. So while we come to that, the strength of multiple ways people access through the endpoint, how the industry itself is transitioning. You made a very interesting point the other day we were talking, and you said companies like Cisco are no longer networking companies; they're becoming security companies. So how's that panning out, and why?
See, because what's happening is, and this is where I think, since you're making this at the government level, this kind of policies of standardizations. See, today, the same problem what we're facing in the Android, the same problem is being faced in all the networking companies. Like when you're talking about in a data center, suppose if you have to coexist, you can coexist, but you're not going to inter-exist. Like today, data centers, people talk about spine and leaf technology, and that's a new technology which is coming up. So what happens is you have to scale up, like using a cloud kind of an infrastructure. Now, if you're having a Cisco spine, then all in your data center, you have to Cisco lift. So that means you're technically getting bogged down or married to an OEM. Now, tomorrow, that's a weak point because he can arm twist you, or like you're getting stuck up to it. Like, whereas we wanted in a servers, for example, we buy simple x86 servers, but we buy anybody's x86 server. It could be HP, it could be IBM's, it could be anybody's, Dell. So we don't have, if you have huge, so there is no risk of any OEM going down. But the risk is if you are stuck to nothing to any brand X, I'm not mentioning any because I don't know. Suppose if something happens to that company, that means your business risk is associated with that particular OEM vendor. So that was the main idea when BSc came out from this from this non-stop culture, just to make sure that you're not at the mercy of somebody else's availability. Like if tomorrow HP non-stop stop subscription, we will lose. Our business will shut down because our business dependency is somebody else manufacturing. So that is the whole thing that you need to have open stack on the networking layer also. So how you interconnect between the messages, or like on the software side, even on the government side, we are making a standardizing of APIs of exchanging data. Today, there is no standardization of if I have a Cisco switch and an HP switch sitting next to each other, two routers. And how do I have the end-to-end security? Say today, the security in the network layer is very good if you have Cisco at the core and the Cisco at the edge. Then your security works very well. But what happens is, that means I cannot tell all my 10,000 clients that everybody must buy a Cisco. Only then an end-to-end encryption is successful. What if the opposite end does not have a corresponding match? So these are the problems. So that's why what we are saying, we need to have, that's why now all these companies are trying to, Cisco's and all, now they are making software defined, because ultimately the infrastructure, it's going to be a PC based infrastructure and not a switch infrastructure on which we are going to put the softwares on that. So that's the way things are moving out in this particular area. But since India is so large, and if they can manufacture something for India as a stack, I am very sure these companies will do it, because today government is pushing others also to make policies and OSs change to support the India stack. I think so if this kind of things can come up at the policy level, it's going to make a very, very big difference, not only to us, including the entire government industry also, ecosystem. Because that's the biggest challenge of how do you standardize and make multiple people come into the same ecosystem and coexist with each other, not partitionalized. Today it's compartmentalized.
So, Rajiv, what KC is talking about is from, so the earlier the approach was you centralize and protect. So you put everything, block everything up in a data center and you protect it. Then you said that everything's going network. So then you fix the Cisco switch, which is also somewhat centralized, and protect the network. Now, possibly it is easier to do that at a data center level, or little more complicated at a network level, because then it brings in the complexity of interoperability. It's almost impossible to my mind at the endpoint level, where you have to have interoperability and security and flexibility all rolled into one. So what could be the possible approach, and how difficult this is?
Okay, thank you, Sameer. So the key point which Rucha said about having Lakshman Rekha, actually, and then going multi-type, getting out of that Rekha. So in fact, today we can draw an analogy from the pandemic we just had. Today, the threat is like a pandemic, and the people are the normal users. And everybody, like you got vaccinated, the normal vaccines don't work in that scenario. So now we have started calling XDRs or EDRs, which is like endpoint defense and response systems, which are slightly more powerful compared to the traditional signature-based antivirus systems. So EDRs are much more based on machine learning and artificial intelligence type of a response system, because they keep connecting with the cloud-based environment and keep getting updated automatically to defend a user based on his usage pattern even. So they built a sort of a defense mechanism based on the usage. So we are no longer constricted by any particular vendor that may be providing the services, but we are moving into a zero trust architecture environment. So every enterprise or an organization needs to start working on a zero trust architecture, where you don't trust anybody, any user, whether they're internal or external. You at least authenticate each time they need to access your crown jewels. So it's a quite a radical change after that. What we were 5 or 10 years ago and what we are today, and in fact more complex or sophisticated attacks are getting built with these our conversational AI or generative AI which are coming in, like your Bard and Chat GPT and all those coming in. Now even the hackers can build sort of a phishing attacks much more efficient than what they have been doing up till now. And similarly, the defense has to step up to ensure that they are not able to breach the defenses. But that's what happened. And if you don't have those defenses in up to date all the time, like Samirji, you were saying, even for SKOCH, you have got a very high-end EDR systems built in. If you don't have, you end up like AIMS, where your 20, 25 days of operations suffer, and your brand value or your confidential data is taken is going for a toss. So while doing defense, there's another aspect which is coming up very clearly now is on the data protection or data privacy for normal users as well. So it's a much more complex environment which we are looking at tomorrow, and that's much more, I'll say, complex role even for the CIOs to lead their teams into ensuring that, one, they keep the assets of national importance very safe. Like even in our case, like I'm from Times of India, and during the events of national interest, our network gets around 2 billion attacks a day, which is more than what Bombay Stock Exchange may be getting. So, but that happens only in a specific time, especially when like general elections happening or budgets are happening. So at that point of time, we get attacked because people want to probably gain knowledge or information, because information is the key today, or the value of value today.
So you talked about the importance of endpoint security and the lack of it. What is the problem it can cause? Because I think when you go and have a CFO level discussion, rather than saying that cost of this is X and the cost of this is X.2, you also have to have a conversation with them that if you don't have this, then what's the cost of not having it, and what's the business impact? So do you have conversations like that, Richa, or?
Not
how do you justify buying Macs? You have lots of them.
So I usually don't have discussion with CFO. I'm slightly more evolved organization, so we have to talk directly to the CEO or the board when we have to justify. And I think they or the shareholders are very cognizant of the fact that security is tied to your brand value as well as the financial health of the organization. If you are not able to secure the organization, in fact, even the audit committees, we are asked to tell how you have secured the entire enterprise. If you are not able to, and they are sharp, they are able to pin, and like being from media, we only educate people what they should be aware of. And if you are not able to even get the basic safety measures in place, I think then we are not doing our job right. And it's easy to justify once you say that if we don't have this particular thing, the loss is that, and there are standards available. So today, the NIST standards defines that your average in India is somewhere around 2.2 or 2.3 out of 5 scoring. If I'm, say, if I'm below that, I'm actually risking my enterprise, or for the particular industry segment, at what level my security should be. If I'm above that, I'm safe, may not be secure, because to be at the level 5, you have to go to a military grade level of security. But I think the fundamental or the basic security which is up to mark with the industry standard threats which are there, I think that much we need to have for our organization. Else we are not worth our salt, or we are not justifying our position in the organization.
So we hope that this work that we are going to be doing on endpoint we would be presenting it to the government, to the policy makers, and I just think that that may bring about this change from this L1 purchase and go towards, what is happening if like AIMS, your system is attacked and your entire system is down, then would you be looking at those 2,000 rupees you saved or not? Now, giving another dimension to the same problem is, like we said, now you go to, from data center, you move to cloud. And then you have this new beast called the hybrid cloud. So you have a data center and a cloud, and you have a on-premises cloud. Now, all these things are fairly complicated. They're happening also in the government. And how is this panning out with somebody like UTI? Because additionally, you are also a regulated entity. So there are some regulations to be managed. And all of this, how do you do a TEI?
So, I will speak English and Hindi, okay? Do you know a term, we know a term called Nagrik, right? And how many of you know there is a term with the Data Protection Act which has come, Digital Nagrik? How do we define the Digital Nagrik? And that is the era which is we are and we are going to be. And with this, if the Nagrik has changed from Digital Nagrik, I remember that Cisco ad, सब बदल दो, सब बदल दो. What they spoke, attack, botnets, सबको बदल दो. What is security? Two terms. Security means take care of your data in motion. Means you secure when it is transmitting and when the data is at rest. Okay? क्या करो? आप encrypt करो. Anything beyond that of data security is concerned. Many of the times, when these terms are used, we get boggle-minded. Okay, so what do? Like we are from India, right? We can't think of, we have got some juggler, like some jugaad. Summarize it, something here which we can understand, okay? When a farmer is in a village, he doesn't know how to use my mobile. Can I do something for him? Okay. Can I help him or complement with something called conversation commerce? I really like the idea of Dr. Neeta ma'am and the vision she has. And thank you for that. We have to relook at, or we say that unload and reload, right? That the time has come, we have to unload and reload and make it simple. Things are very, very simple, okay? People make it very, very complicated by using a lot of terms. And whenever I speak, I make them realize that things are simple and look at it simple way. When we are going to teach our children, when they will say that there's an attack, bot attack, DDoS attack, there is an IP spoofing, there is an man-middle attack. They'll say, sir, Papa, or sir, what is this? Yes, these are the terms, and these are the weakness of technology which has been learned and adopted some technique to bombard with some small programs which will make your system unavailable. And that is another aspect, what Kersi was saying, that if his system, a stock exchange, is down for a minute, you can see what is the impact on the economy of India would happen, right? And what is the reputation our country would have in front of others. While I'll touch the question which he has raised on the cloud, but before that, I wanted to touch upon certain things which many forums, they are not, discussed. Today, we have to carry huge responsibility, the India talent, okay? The India talent is going to be looked for all IT support globally, and it's happening. And with a lot of automation coming into this world, you will see lot of responsibility, and probably we have to diverse, okay? You don't know, tomorrow your child may travel to US or some UK in some company, and he is supporting IT systems there. So realize that responsibility, and we have to take it and move it. While coming to the data center, what question was raised, ask each one of you, is running a data center in your organization, in your premise, is your business? It's not, right? We are coming from BFSI, you are from government. They said, why don't I go and give it to somebody who are really expert of those, okay? And I can share those infrastructure and that expertise, because today it is not only Windows, right? There are hundreds of operating systems which are lying. There are thousands of open sources applications which are available. Where is the skill set to run? Use them. Leverage your platforms, those platforms, in the benefit of your organization and the benefit of your customers. So what I say is that don't set up your data centers. Host your data center, host your infrastructure somewhere else on the private data center. A lot of options are available. Governments are also coming out, lot of initiatives, Meghdut, community cloud, and the direction also has come now recently from SEBI that how to adopt cloud and what are the 9 principles that you should take care while adopting cloud. Let me tell you, in 2016, a thought came in my mind when you know Unit Trust of India, very old, and we have around 26 lakhs investors who are more than 50 and 60 years old, and they are still there with us. I mean, they are 30, 40 years are there with us, and we have to support them. So when it was asked to us, why do you are running these erstwhile server rooms in your premises? So they said, what is the vision? I said, tomorrow, everything is going to be moved on the cloud. Let us move everything on the cloud. But then the question came, how do you secure the cloud? Securing the cloud is tremendous skill set, tremendous task. But if you, architecture is good secured architecture. At once upon a time, let me tell you, the AWS, when I was setting a public cloud and private cloud, AWS cannot build a security architecture the way I wanted, or the way my team has said. They have to brought down the engineering team and set up the defense and defense in depth layer, which Kasi just mentioned that defense in depth security layer is highly important, because the threat landscapes are not only exponentially increasing, but they are target attacks. BSE, our stock exchange are getting attacks. Our government sites are getting attacked. Our Aadhaar repository is getting attacked. We know how to protect. It's not that we don't know how to protect. But then certain things, what happens? It's a voluminous attack. When the voluminous attacks comes, you have to have a different technique. And all those techniques, whoever is taking the responsibility should know that what are the techniques. Because let me tell you that if the policeman doesn't know the techniques of the thief, the policeman is not going to protect you, okay?
Anyway, so thank you very much, Sanjeevan. The basic idea was to introduce your private sector counterparts and their thought process, and they've been hearing what great things all of you have been doing, and see if together we can, come back with some recommendations, some reports, some policy impact that can help towards making India a higher middle income country by 2047. As you noticed that as far as the private sector is concerned, I think security is a very, very big key with scalability and cost, which is what they're worrying about. And I'm sure that even in the government, these are the 3 factors that you should be worrying about. And if some of these reports can really help cover some common ground, it would be wonderful. So before I move on to the awards part of it, any questions anyone has? Any questions? Anything anyone from the panel would like to say as a final comment?
Talking about security, it many years ago, we would remember that it was a small part of a big tech organization, right? Now it is a big part of entire tech organization. But I think where we are headed, this is all of our problem. He talked about board, right? It is board down, everybody's how to be secured. So where I think private sector and public sector can come together is how to make sure that the lowest educated, I want to say, lowest aware user is also protected. Right, our inclusion part of the user is, you know, we work in rural area financing, you know, door-to-door farmers. How to make them also A, aware of the threats and B, secured from it. That should be our joint, you know, agenda. That at India level, get standardization and get policies in so that our OEMs are forced to come to a common ground. Otherwise, what is happening is now there are different kinds of security companies saying, I will make a security mesh for you because you have different things everywhere and I'll tell you how to get the dashboards out of it and so on and so forth. So not that these are not good solutions, these are good solutions, but they add layer of complications with every layer. So this is where I believe we come together to protect every single user that we have.
Thank you very much. Any final comment?
No, I will just add to what she said, but actually if you see this recently, a couple of months back, there was a government initiative called Cyber Swachhata campaign, which was run by but it was run mostly by the banks. Okay, so, and that was not coming from from a government initiative, it was more being run as it was told to all the organizations, it was sort of a dictate, sab log kuch karo. So everybody started just putting up websites or this thing, but it has to be more inclusive, more practical at the school level, at the senior citizen, because these are the vulnerable lot, because the senior citizens or the housewife, and even the tech guys are also very vulnerable. That's not an issue, because many cases which I've seen, I've worked with some of the police at some point in time, all the frauds, all the stupid things are done by the tech guys themselves, though they are working in the tech guys. One more point I just wanted to mention about when we are talking about this Mac versus PC thing. One of the practical industry problems in this thing, the amount of business applications that India uses, I'm not talking about India uses on the PC is far, far higher than the Mac. I think that's one of the major concerns why people are not, it's not only the cost part of it, but adaptability, acceptability, usability, I would say, let me say it's usability. I think that's where the challenge is also. So it's not to take away the juice from the PC guys. I mean, it's like the Microsoft has gone deep rooted inside into this. So this is one of the areas I think we did not discuss. That's why I just want to make that point.
Yeah, absolutely. So we need more apps that work on a native secure environment. So you can't release your version for a Mac and then say I'm being attacked.
Okay, so I'll probably stress on the awareness at the user level, at the grassroots level, protecting them. I think that's where the private and the government agencies can cooperate very well. I don't know if most of you may have gone to even Singapore. The metro stations there have a lot of these posters out there about cyber security, how the social engineering is being used to siphon off money from innocent people. So that's something more of an education about, an awareness has to be brought in India as well, right up till like every lowest level, because that's where the amount of money being siphoned off by hackers or by social engineering from innocent people is mind-boggling right now. It's going into billions of dollars per year, and it's a menace actually. So one, awareness is very important. And yes, the second point I would also like to say, so I'm a die-hard Mac user. Any techies actually, if you take, or developers you take, they find Mac much more easier to use because of the performance is much better, the security is much more inherent in it. The fundamental architecture differences, the kernel is actually detached from operating system, whereas in the Microsoft PC environment, it is ingrained. That's why the attack is very simple, is easy to get into the PC environment much easily compared to the Mac. But overall, the global studies are turning out now very well in favor of Mac if you have to use it as an enterprise operating system. I'll second that. But yes, you will face a lot of problem, especially opposition from even the CFO in getting into that. But if you're able to explain it well, you can get into that. The another aspect which is holding out Mac back is something related to compliance and audits, because you need to install separate systems on Mac if you need to control them from the back end for an enterprise security and data privacy pieces. So those are some of the constraints, but I think larger and progressive organizations are going into Mac very easily. There's not much on the, except for some legacy applications, I think most of them do work on Mac now pretty easily. Yeah. Thanks.
Final words from Sanjeev.
I will take 2 minutes. We are not here to market Mac, but let me...
Also, let me give a disclaimer. There is zero financial support from Apple or Mac for this conference.
But this is the research done by SKOCH, and we all were there, and it was very surprising figures which has come. But the question arises, where do I use Mac? My core applications are running on the Windows platform, majorly, 95%. Then if I cannot run my core application on the Mac, what is the use? Even it gives good benefit in terms of 5-year ROI, and it brings really a value add, because what is the value add when he was discussing? Not a single anti-malware or a security product you can install on the Mac. That is the value add. Now, having said this, where you will provide Mac to your task force or your staff? From our studies, what has come out is that in any organization, 30% people who are core, who are really work in the back end, who use legacy application, your core business application, while 70% of the task force are generally on the field. And all these applications are now built on browser, okay? So don't have a client server, so you don't have to install any client there. It's a browser-based application. I felt, and we felt that why don't everybody should start looking at Mac, because it is giving you huge benefits and value add at those task force level where 70% people can use it. And those are browser-based, seamlessly you can use without any antivirus or security product. I think that's a huge benefit, right? And there's a data safety. So my last word would be that look at it, see the benefit, look at the task force, the Salesforce area. Probably those applications are built on your Java platform or Windows platform. You can continue working with Windows, but since the figures have come so good and there is a value add, there's a data safety from Mac, so I can only say that look at it.
Thank you very much. So enough of technology. Now is the time for the awards, what we've been anxiously waiting for. So thank you very much to the panel, and we'll see you over lunch.
Well, good afternoon. It's time for the SKOCH Awards, the much awaited moment. May I request Mr. Sameer Kochar to kindly join me on the stage, please. And here we go with the first announcement of the Silver Award in E-Governance category. Center for E-Governance, Karnataka. I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Sachin for Project Mahiti Kanaja. The next silver in rural development goes to Directorate Swachh Bharat Mission Grameen, Jaipur, for Model ODF Plus Village, Javanpura. Dr. Priya Goyal, Team Lead, PMU. Silver for Animal Husbandry and Fisheries. Animal Husbandry Department, Andhra Pradesh, Dr. YSR Sanchara, Pashu Arogya Seva. Dr. Radnam Amarendra Kumar, Director. Silver in Agriculture. Department of Agriculture, Rajasthan, for Project Raj Kisan Sathi. Dr. Shankar Babu, Joint Director. Tourism and Culture, Silver for Art, Culture and Archaeology Department, Rajasthan, Project Digital Archives. I invite Dr. Dalip Verma, Archive Officer. Mr. Kapil Dev Prasad from Social Justice and Empowerment Department, Rajasthan, for Project Chief Minister Kanyadan Yojana for financial support for marriage of underprivileged families, adult girls. Silver in Social Justice and Security. Next silver in Social Justice and Security also goes to Rajasthan, Social Justice and Empowerment Department. Mr. Manoj Arya, Project Process Reengineering in New Scholarship Portal, integrating DigiLocker and linking Jan Aadhaar and Shala Darpan. Silver in Revenue, Chief Commissioner of Land Administration, CCLA, YSR Jagannana Shwasta Bhu Haku Maria Bhu Rakha, Pathakam, Mr. G. Ganesh Kumar, Joint Secretary, Lands, and Ms. P. Rachna, Project Director. Silver in Education, State Project Office, Samagra Shiksha, Chhattisgarh, for Angama Ma Shiksha, Mr. Narendra Dugga, Managing Director. Silver in e-governance goes to Tamil Nadu E-Governance Agency for e-Munitram, Mr. Praveen K. Nair, Director. Silver in Police and Safety. Rajasthan Police Department online complaint registration by the citizen on CCTNS Citizen Portal. Mr. Sharad Kaviraj, IGP. Silver in e-governance goes to Directorate of Biotechnology for BioVillage 2.0. Mr. Animesh Das, Director. Mr. Pendyala Srinivas, Joint Director, E-Governance, Information Technology, Electronics and Communications Department, Telangana. Silver in e-governance for project e-office. Rachna Srivastav ji from NIC, if you are here with us, please join us on stage. Silver in District Governance for District Administration Balangir. Project Climate Resilient Works for Sustainable Waste Management and Climate Resilient Livelihood under Jal Shakti Abhiyan. Mr. Sushant Kumar Singh, CEO cum Executive Officer. Silver in Municipal Governance for Vijayawada Municipal Corporation for biomethanation waste to energy. Ms. R. Bhagya Lakshmi, Honorable Mayor, and Ms. K.V. Satyavati, Additional Commissioner. That was last of the silvers. Now moving to gold. First one in gold in health category. Recipient is Directorate of Medical Education, Government of Rajasthan, State Organ and Tissue Transplant Organization. Dr. Rashmi Gupta, Additional Director. Gold in water for Water Resources Department, Government of Rajasthan. Rajasthan State Water Informatics. Mr. D.R. Meena, Chief Engineer. Gold in e-governance for Tamil Nadu e-governance agency for project Pudumai Pen scheme. Mr. Praveen K. Nair, Director. Gold in Women and Child Development for Department of WCD Rajasthan. For Mahila Suraksha Evam Salah Kendra, Mr. Rajesh Kaushik, Additional Director. Gold in Social Justice and Security goes to Social Justice and Empowerment Department, Government of Rajasthan for Palanhar scheme and portal for transferring real-time benefits to orphan and child in need of care and protection. Mr. Rohit Jain, Assistant Director. Gold in Urban Development for Directorate of Municipal Administration, Tamil Nadu Urban Tree Information System. Mr. Vishnu Chandran, Joint Director. Next gold in urban development goes to Directorate of Municipal Administration Swachh Bharat. Mr. Vishnu Chandran, Joint Director. Mr. Pendyala Srinivas, Joint Director E-Governance from Information Technology, Electronics and Communications Department, Telangana. For Gold in E-Governance, Project E-Procurement. Gold in Municipal Governance goes to Tirupur City Municipal Corporation for Integrated Complaint Tracking System. Mr. N. Dinesh Kumar, Honorable Mayor, Tirupur, and Mr. Pavan Kumar, Commissioner. Gold in Education goes to Higher Education Department, Government of Odisha for e-resources for teaching, learning and resources. Mr. Rohit Pujari, Honorable Minister, Higher Education Department, and Mr. Vishnupada Sethi, Principal Secretary. And our last award, E-Governance in Gold category, goes to Department of Rural Development, Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. National Social Assistance Program is Kalyani Mishra, Economic Advisor. जी आप आइए प्लीज, आप आइए आइए। While that was the last award, I request all the awardees to kindly join us on stage for a group photograph. All the awardees, please. You can leave your awards behind. Just walk up to the stage.
बेटा मैं करवा रहा हूँ, आप अभी जैसे है ना खड़े, आप फोटो लो, मैं दोबारा लूँगा. Now listen to me carefully. The front line comes to the third line goes to the front line. Take another picture. Center line stays wherever it is. नहीं, आप तो यहीं पे हैं. आप तो मेरे साथ पिछली बार भी आप भागे.